Hello, hello. Hey guys, how's it going? This is International Master John Bartholomew, and you are watching my live coverage of the Pro Chess League playoffs, second round of the playoffs, featuring the Minnesota Blizzard versus the St. Louis Archbishops. Yep, we got another St. Louis team. We beat the Webster Windmills last week to get to this stage in the playoffs, but now we got to beat the St. Louis Archbishops. So thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, that's a problem. I need to fix that. I'm glad I caught that early on. What was that? Hold, guys. Hold. Hello to everyone just tuning in. This match is going to start any minute. Oh, it was Chess Bay. Thank you, Chess Bay. Resubscribed. Thank you so much. I missed you, Chess Bay. Chess Bay got a great shout out in an article that came out recently about chess streaming. You guys should check that out. It's on my Twitter. Eric Hansen is in it. A bunch of other streamers. Danny Wrench. So much appreciated, Chess Bay. How's everyone doing? What's up, Solafide? And 8362923 just subscribed. Thank you so much for subscribing. Looks a little weird overlaid on top of the score, but we'll have to live with that. It'll be all right, guys. We'll make it. Derek Rose's Broken Body donated $1 and says, San Francisco. Yes, that's right. That brings me to an important point. The winner of this match, the Blizzard versus St. Louis Archbishops, gets a spot in the Final Four in Pro Chess League Finals weekend in San Francisco, California. That is April 7th to 8th, I believe, second weekend of April. And I hope that will be in attendance. P. Zirkle 1979 just subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thank you, P. Zirkle. I haven't streamed for probably like 2 weeks at least? At least 2 weeks, maybe 2.5, close to 2.5. So I'm glad to be back. How's it going, AC Time L Warrior? Checking in from Ireland. All right, yeah, it's 1 a.m. All right, so pretty late there. He's been up for 5 hours, but he wants to watch the stream. Thank you so much. Yeah, Alexander Botez is also in that article. Yeah, that's right, Eric. I often mistype chess bay as chess base. I'm just so used to typing chess base. It's not even an autocorrect. I'm just, extremely used to chess base. Hey, Zion Canyon. Zion Canyon, I saw that your prediction of what I was going to be wearing and also how my hair was going to be styled, and you were completely off. So, good try, big shooter, but you were way off this time. The hair is not gelled. I'm not wearing a blue shirt. Maybe you got the fact that the door is open right, so you can be happy about that. Sandy Gokaza cheered 10 bits. This thing is still messed up. I will be a Twitch streaming professional at one point, guys. Professional in the sense that my layout's going to look a lot better. I know it's like amateur hour up in here, but interacting with you guys and the commentary is the most important thing. So, I don't know why there's just a broken picture of bits when that happens. I probably need to refresh something. But I won't let it bother me. Games have started. Oh my. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even see that, but they're queuing up here. So, this is the first round of this playoff match. We got Mauricio Flores versus Forrest Chan. We have the new, actually, repeat Minnesota Open champion and closed champion. No, sorry, just closed champion. So, the Minnesota champion, state champion, Andrew Tang, taking on Yaroslav Zarabyuk. They're already in the middle game, practically. We have Daniel Gurovich with the white pieces against Varuzhin Akobian. And I got to get Nikola Mitkov's game up. I don't know his username. I'm going to find it. Thank you to Floyd Akash, who cheered 31 bits. And Agent Michael Scairn. Yeah, thank you for subscribing once again. You're a 2-month subscriber. Thank you, Agent Michael. And Horg donated $20. Sub for years to your channel. I learned a lot from your excellent content. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks so much, Hork. Okay, I got to get the other game up. And then let's focus on Andrew's game right now. Since, this looks like an interesting matchup to me, and they're pretty well along in the middle game. GM Mitkov. Okay. GM Mitkov. Then we'll have all the games. I'm just following everyone involved in this match. Yeah, Nikola, he's been coming up clutch for us recently because he's not perhaps a well-known player on our team, but he's been doing really well for us late in the season. He's a tricky player, tricky GM. I played him a couple times OTB. And he has the white pieces against Fedoseev. So I'm going to be trying to cover all of these games. Plunder My Blunder donated 1,000 bits, cheered 1,000 bits, says welcome back. Thanks, Plunder My Blunder. Good to see you. Okay. Yeah, I said I was going to focus on Andrew's game. He has an interesting one going on against Zarabuke. You guys all know Andrew, but I'll skip around a little bit. What was the opening here? Mauricio. Mauricio was our hero the other week, by the way, winning a critical game against Alexander Shamanov of the Webster Windmills to send us into the playoffs. So he came up absolutely clutch for us. All right. Yeah, he's got the black pieces against Forrest Chan. I mean, for us to win this match, I think it's almost critical that we blank Forrest Chen, their board 4, because he's clearly their weakest player. I mean, every other player is a strong GM on this team. So we got to go 4-0 against him, I think, absolutely. And all our guys are capable of beating him, of course, because we're fielding a very balanced lineup. 2 IMs, 2 GMs. Andrew's basically a GM. So almost 3 GMs, 1 IM. So critical game there. Yeah, here's Andrew's game. This looks like it was a Scotch. You can tell by the pawn structure. This often happens in the Scotch. White has pawns arranged this way. You don't often see both sides castle kingside in this line, so that's a little weird to me. Now d5, so giving white the option of taking en passant. But I suppose if en passant happens, which does open up the attack on the queen, probably just queen takes d6, and Zarabuke has these bishops lined up that are both undefended. So even though Andrew would have to take on a very poor pawn structure, especially these double isolated c-pawns, I think his activity is going to make up for that. White might just be in trouble here. So very interesting development there with d5. And the threat is just to take on c4, because now Andrew has 3 attackers on that pawn. Yeah, so he's simply threatening to win it. Thanks, KLL. I'm glad to be back to streaming. Yeah, I've been very busy lately. Forrest has a 2230 performance rating in the league, says Smarter Chess. Hey, Smarter Chess. That's our manager, by the way, Matt. So I'm sure he's paying real close attention to this match as well. Are you our manager, or is Patrick Tang officially our manager? I feel like you guys are sharing the duties. Co-manager, maybe? Assistant to the manager. Okay. Well, you've been doing a great job regardless. Yeah, Andrew Tang's father, Patrick Tang. Very passionate dude when it comes to chess. He's been faithfully steering the Minnesota Blizzard ship all season. And hopefully we can steer it directly to San Francisco. That's where we're going. But got to win this match. And I will remind you guys that the St. Louis Archbishops have draw odds in this match by virtue of their superior performance to us in the regular season. So if it's an 8-8 tie, they go through, not us. So we got to win by at least a score of 8.5 to 7.5. Andrew has all his requirements for GM. He's just waiting on his confirmation, Horg. So he'll get it next month, I believe, at the FIDE Congress. It's kind of weird that they make them wait so long, but the FIDE Congress only meets every few months. And even though he fulfilled the requirements at the end of last year, he still has to wait a little bit. RoboBeer, I have no idea who Crew 64 even is. So I'd have to see who they are before I agree to a death match with them. All right, so Zarabuke is thinking here over d5. Why don't we skip over to another game? Daniel Gurovich. I like Daniel's game. What I like about him especially is that he always plays very fast. He very rarely experiences time pressure. I mean, we'll see tonight, but most of the time he's the one pressuring his opponents on the clock. He's been a tough opponent for me over the board. I last played him at that tournament in St. Louis about a month ago, and that was in the final round. We both didn't have a whole ton to play for. It was a draw after like 30 moves or so. But yeah, he's a very good practical player. Manages his clock well. He puts you under a lot of pressure. Looks like he just chose a quiet London system against a Kobian. Okay, yeah, I don't mind this sort of thing right off the bat. Draw would be a good result on this board. Certainly if our IMs can hold their own against the GMs. Well, again, I say that, but Andrew's basically a GM himself. So let's say if Daniel can hold his own, and let's also say Nikola Mitkov, because Mitkov, despite being a GM, does have a slightly lower rating. So you could argue that he, in this lineup, is one of our weaker players if you go strictly by rating. So if they can hold their own, Daniel and Mitkov, against these GMs, make some draws, and we just beat up on Forrest Chen, maybe get some upsets against the other GMs, we can win this match for sure. So he's just playing simple chess right here. We got a standoff on the C-file. Would not be surprised if both pairs of rooks come off the board soon. But black does have to watch the B pawn, so maybe a move like A6 makes sense for black just to stabilize B5. Yeah, and there he goes. That's just a helpful move. There's no rush in a position like this. There's not even a direct clash of forces or a convenient pawn break for either side. So in such a position, you want to play a maintenance move, some sort of helpful move. And Daniel might try to do the same. He's kind of running out of purely useful moves. He might need to undertake some activity soon. But yeah, queen d3 even. Just a slight improvement of the queen. Let's check out the final game. So this is Mitkov against their big gun, Vladimir Fedoseev, who must be playing from Russia, and it's got to be very early in the morning there. And I think that's one thing, and I've heard this speculated by other people, that's been affecting Fedoseev's performance in the league this year. I will remind you that he tied for first in the World Rapid Championship with Vishy Anand last year. So at the end of 2017. Anand won it in a playoff against Fedoseev pretty handily, but they finished with the same amount of points after the end of regulation. So this guy is no slouch when it comes to rapid chess, but for some reason in the league this season, he has not been playing well. So I think it maybe has a lot to do with the time difference, playing so early in Russia. But okay, I like Mitkov's position here. He's got all his pieces involved in the center and on the king side. Black does have the pair of bishops, but it looks like there's a good chance that these dark square bishops are going to be swapped. Of course, Mitkov would love to land a rook on e7. That would just be a dream, but it's not going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Nikola tried a plan with h4, h5. That's a pawn break that you might consider here because g6 is looking like a weak point. White's got this queen parked here, pressure on this pawn. So h4, h5 would be a nice way to crank up the pressure. The knight on g3 is a concern because this pawn on g6 does restrict its movements. So that's, strictly speaking, not a great piece for white. Maybe he could pivot it back here and try to get it to f4 or d4. But, yeah, we'll have to see how this develops. I still like the look of this h4, h5 plan. You guys are still talking about my hair, huh? You guys don't like the hair, huh? I might just leave it down for you guys. I might not even put it up. Someone left a funny YouTube comment in my most recent video. They said, when I've got the fringes up, I'm in tournament battle mode, and when it's down, I'm resting comfortably at home. There might be some truth to that. As you guys can tell, I have really straight hair, and it's very soft. So, like, when it grows out, it just grows, like, straight out. Looks kind of funny. So, generally, I like to keep it fairly short. All right, so Fedoseev's just completing development, maybe looking to get a rook over here. I wonder if Mitkov's going to take on d6 or do what I said, h4, h5. We'll check back on that game. Let's go to Forrest Chen versus Mauricio Flores. Okay, I like Mauricio's position. He's playing a much lower rated player. Usually when you're playing a lower rated player, you want to keep as much tension in the position as possible. And you can see here, there's a completely full board of pieces. Nothing has been exchanged yet, not even a pair of pawns. And the position is not strictly closed. I see some pawn levers at black's disposal, like b5 later or g5. So that's a great strategy. And it's no wonder that Mauricio has written a book on pawn structures for quality chess. He wrote it a few years back. It's called Chess Structures. It's a really good book. It talks about all the typical structures that you find out of various openings. So he knows what he's doing. Yeah, and there's no immediate tactics or anything. So what did he just play? Queen from b6 back to d8. He's probably looking to line up g5 and start some play over here. But he might not rush that move. He might just wait and see what his opponent does, who's getting a little lower on time. I mean, 6.5 minutes and the board is full of pieces. This could be trouble for white. So we got to score in this game. All right, so now we circle back to Andrew's game against Zarabuke. Let's see what happened after d5. So this is where we left off. He took on d5. Yeah, since we were not liking the en passant capture. This is logical. So what's the deal here? Because this pawn on e5 is double attacked, right? Could Andrew take that? Or is there a tactic? Decides to play c5, and this is the position we're currently at. So why didn't he take it on this last move? I don't exactly see why not. Maybe, let's say he takes it with the bishop. Knight f3, bishop g7. Maybe he didn't like the activity white could potentially have against his king. I don't know, something like take, rook e1. This rook on a6 is removed from the action. I mean, it's not doing a whole lot here. The only reason it came to a6 is because there was that bishop trade. So he'd much rather have it back here. So I'm guessing he didn't like the activity that Zarabuke would get if he decided to go for that pawn. But in a longer game, for sure, I think Andrew would probably spend more time looking at a move like that. He'd want to make certain that Zarabuke is not bluffing him. Okay, so Andrew's just debating what to do here. Okay. Daniel Gurovich's game. Not a whole lot happening in this one. There's a trade of rooks down the file. That's almost inevitable when you have a standoff like this. Both sides are competing for the only open file in the position, so just so typical to take one pair of rooks off the board and then take the other file with the rook. They're kind of jockeying for position here, like rook c2. All right, doesn't do a whole lot, but with that move, Daniel is saying, I want you to be the first one to take, because then I can have the symbolic advantage of the file. I mean, even here, probably Jacobian could just do something like this, and we might even get a trade of the queen, so all the heavy pieces could come off the board, but that's the philosophy behind rook c2. But then something happened. All right, so Jacobian broke in the center. He allowed knight e5. Probably Jacobian is angling for a structural advantage here, because now this pawn on e4 is attacked 3 times, only defended twice. He's probably looking for something like this, which would be favorable for black for sure. Because this pawn on d4 would be isolated. Black would have less pawn islands. It's usually good to have less pawn islands compared to your opponent. So therefore, I bet f3 will be played by Daniel. But I gotta say, I'm liking black's position here because it seems like the tension favors him, the fact that he could always take on e4 in the future. Also, he does have this outpost. He can jump his knight into c4 at any moment. And maybe something like this isn't so good for white. Probably not. I mean, then the b file looks favorable for black. The c file is a non-factor. Still pressure on e4. So, yeah, I think Jacobian's a little better here. We'll keep an eye on it. And he does have a 2-minute time advantage right now, too. Daniel did take on d5. So he decided that he's going to play with this isolated pawn. Probably try to play for some activity. If Jacobian takes with a piece, let's say he does take with a knight, as I was demonstrating, maybe knight e4 and try to look at this c5 square. So he'll be hoping that his activity can compensate for the structural damage. And that's what happened. Knight f takes d5. And Daniel's thinking right now. You guys are still talking about my hair. It's like the most standard haircut, but it's generating a lot of discussion. I'm honored, you guys. All right, we'll check back in on that one. Mitkov, kind of similar to the Gurovich-Jacobian game. There's a trade of rooks. Mitkov did go for h4. So he's trying to lever it up. And rook e8, interesting. So there could be some trades now. Take. He's looking at the square down here, though, but probably take. I don't think a check makes sense on e1 yet, so probably capture. This should be fine for white. This looks about level. I mean, I think he'd want to capture on d6 and try to give him this isolated pawn. White does have to watch his own king in a line like this. Maybe black actually throws in this check first and then takes. I think throwing the check in is helpful because then queen f2 would be a big threat, threatening g2. But something like this. Queen e5 maybe. I don't know, check. Yeah, at some point Mitkov will have to solve the problem with this knight, though, that I was talking about. Because as more pieces get traded off, the fact that this knight remains on g3 where it doesn't have really anywhere forward to go to, that becomes a bigger factor. Often the more exchanges you make, the more it reveals the weakness of a piece, if it is weak. But for now, they're still thinking in this position. Okay, back to board one. Forrest Chen versus Mauricio. Chen getting lower on time. Like to see that. Definitely like to see that. Elastic Hold cheered 100 bits. Thanks, Elastic Hold. So Mauricio didn't go for g5. Now he seems content just to play in the center. He's just going to put Chen under a lot of pressure on the clock. We'll see how the young player handles it. Okay, so this position, we've got a couple developments. c5, knight f3, c4. So Andrew just ignored the e5 pawn altogether, and he's breaking on the queen side. So he's going to try to make use of his superior forces in this sector of the board. Zarabuke's going for the attack. Bishop h6. Wow, okay. And now knight g5. Wow, okay. I'm going to stick on this one for a second, because now Zarabuke's almost all in. He's just letting Andrew win this pawn. White's queen side is collapsing. I mean, queen takes a4 could be played. Maybe even right now. But he's going for this classic king side attack idea. You see this a lot in like the Grand Prix attack of the Sicilian, for instance. Take and then take on h7. That's the threat right now. But just eyeballing this, I definitely like black's chances to defend here. There's some weird tactical ideas, though, admittedly. Like, let's say bishop h8 is played. Try to avoid a trade. Maybe white can do this. Maybe. Maybe not. King takes. Queen takes h7. Bishop g7. I don't know. You can always throw in some sort of e6 move. Something like this could happen, but it feels like this shouldn't work for white. Maybe black does this and kind of connects the forces. Although, knight h7 is a threat. And if king g8, knight f6. So it could get a little weird here. Both players relatively, well, yeah, similar on the clock. Time pressure looming. What about this queen takes a4 move? Because that just offers a queen trade immediately. In no way white can trade queens. So probably queen here. f4 would be a candidate move. Maybe rook e4. Maybe. Rook e4, pawn takes, bishop takes g7. Just play for checkmate. I don't know, h5. Again, kind of feels like it shouldn't work for white. It's a lot of material to give up. But, and I've said this before, the initiative is so critical in these Pro Chess League games. These are rapid games, 15 minutes with a 2-second increment. It seems like a lot of time, especially if you're used to playing on time, online, I mean. But it's really not. I mean, when you're playing another good player, there's tension. It's a team match. You want to do well for your team. Those 15 minutes get ate up so fast, and 2-second increment is not very much. I mean, if it's complicated, we've seen all sorts of blunders in the league this season and last season. Mitkov drew, really. Whoa, what happened here? All right, we're going to skip away and just see how this game ended, because that game ended abruptly. We left off right here. Wow, okay, Mitkov sent the knight in. That lame duck piece I was talking about, he just sent it in. He said, I'm going to sack it. And since that contains the threat of knight f6, that's a pretty big threat. Fedoseev says, okay, I guess I got to take it. And then check. Here, check. Here, check. And they agree to draw because black cannot block with the queen due to rook takes e8. And white wins. So, yeah. And it's, possible also to continue checking if the king goes to the f file. If king f7, by the way, there's no queen f6, but there is queen takes h5, and that probably just loses for black also because king f8, bishop h6, and we're going to take this. Okay, I'm happy with that result. I think Mitkov is probably happy with that too. From a team standpoint, if we can hold their top-rated player to a draw in the first round, that's good. That's great. Okay, Kobian and Gurevich. Yeah, so Gurevich fixed his pawn structure. I'm not going to focus on that game because it's probably the most boring of the three right now. This one is intense. So Andrew played bishop h8, avoiding bishop takes g7, f4, knight c4, f5. Yeah, Zerebuk is just going for it. However, I wonder if Andrew's rook being poised on the 6th rank could help now. I guess white is threatening to take and then invade on f7. So let's just say black plays something like this. He's threatening to do something like this. All right, so... The e5 pawn is hanging as well, though. I mean, knight takes e5 is certainly a candidate move because that covers f7. But when I was talking about the rook on the 6th rank, like maybe take and the rook has some influence. It could go over to g6. It's also eyeballing the bishop. Akiti resubscribed with Twitch Prime for 2 months. Thanks, Akiti. Reaching a critical stage in some of these games. Quickly going to break away for a second to this game because Forrest Chen is way low on time. He has 6.7 seconds against Mauricio's 5. Yeah, and black looks better here. I love these bishops. I loved Mauricio's rooks stacked up. We could get a result here pretty soon, and hopefully a favorable one. Now he's threatening bishop takes h4. That's going to be a pawn, I think. Doesn't have to take it yet. Could just leave it. Maybe play a move like bishop f5 to cover h3, because if take, he's going to block with the queen. Although that position's great. I mean, up a pawn. Yep, Mauricio's just going to bank the pawn. Wow, and he did not even play queen h3. I would have played queen h3 there for sure. Because leaving black with all these attacking resources in an opposite color bishop position, that's super duper dangerous. But for the moment, Mauricio can't get these pieces involved. Bishop f5 is logical. Rook e7 is also very logical. Rook e7 looks pretty good here. It's protected by the queen. Yeah, I think I would play rook e7. Rook e7, let's say queen g3. He could trade and then maybe play bishop h5 at the end. Whoa, but b5. Remember I was talking about those levers earlier in the game? b5 striking on the opposite side of the board. That's what good players do oftentimes. The old principle of two weaknesses. And no doubt b5 was motivated by the fact that white has so little time. Try to surprise your opponent and give him a real curveball and time pressure. You guys want me to cram-splain this position? Well, if Kramnik were white, of course he'd be claiming that he's at least equal here. Automated scoreboard. You know, Matt, I think I'll just update it manually. But I'll have to talk to you about that in the future. Maybe for next season. Queen e7, keep the queens on. Twitch for Fun cheered 100 bits. Thank you, Twitch for Fun. Okay, so I don't see anything decisive yet for black, but I think there's like a 90 to 95% chance Mauricio's going to win this game. Don't want to jinx him, but all right, let's switch back over here. This game is intense. Andrew, what did he do? Okay, f5 take. He took on e5 with the knight. Bishop g7, what? Oh yeah, that's a move. I did not see initially that that's a move, but wow. Zerebuk makes way for that. Andrew took it, queen takes here, and this is the current position. F takes g6. That's a lot of heat coming down on Andrew's position. On f7 here. He's up a grip of material now, though. He might even look at bailout moves like knight f3 check to try to trade down the e-file. That seems kind of desperate, though. Peekaboo, you dumb baby. Subscribe with Twitch Prime. Thanks, Peekaboo. What in the world is going on here? This knight is supported by the rook on a6. So Andrew is finding ways to make this rook relevant. Chessbra just subscribed. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Love the bras. Check out their candidates coverage. Rook takes f7 could be played, but at the end of the line, White's going to be losing a lot of pieces. Oh, I think Zerabuk's got to come up with something good here. Queen takes. What's he going to do now? Because, yeah, take on f7. Black is very happy to trade off White's rook and knight. What is this? I don't get it. Queen takes? What's the problem? Queen takes. Again, if rook takes f7, king takes f7, Andrew wins that 100%. This queen is useless. The b pawn is dangerous. What's the deal here? No, I think Zerabuk's going down. Well, Andrew doesn't even take it. Wow. Really? Rook f6. Don't think that's how I would have played it, but this also might be good. Yeah, in fact, this probably just wins too. See the back rank problem for White? Rook takes, bishop takes, queen takes g6. He doesn't have time because he gets mated on the back rank. Yeah, all right. Awesome result, Andrew. Very good defense. Zerabuk was throwing everything he had at him, including that move bishop g7. Fantastic. Okay, Daniel Gurevich has 4 seconds left. Not good for us. Yeah, 4 seconds left. It is equal material, but this pawn is looking awfully lonely. There's a lot of activity here. This queen can come into g1 at any moment. That's why he played h4 to give his king an escape route. Looks very bad. I mean, Akobian has little time as well, but he has the initiative. This looks bad for us. Let me update the scoreboard. It's 1.5. Oh, scoreboard cut that off. I'll fix that after this game. Gurevich is holding on for dear life here. I think that might be a game ender, though. Ooh, maybe not. So queen h1, king h5. If f5, there's the en passant. Oh, there's queen takes h4. Yeah. He was going down there. Here, take on h4. That was going to be game over. We missed the end of the Mauricio game, but he did win. He just won. Excellent. Yeah, this game was looking bad for White after Mauricio won that pawn. I was criticizing Forrest Chen's decision not to trade queens earlier, or at least offer a queen trade. He did offer a queen trade, but by that point, structurally, White was just toast here. Pressure on b3. Black is holding all the advantages in this position. Mauricio was up 2 pawns. Up 3 pawns. 4 pawns. Even though it's opposite color bishops, 4 pawns is enough to get the job done. Yeah, that's just too much. White resigned here. He's losing in a bunch of different ways. All right, so we take the first round. We scored 2.5, 1.5 that round. Great result. That's perfect. You know what? I'm just going to shorten this. Archbishops, we're just going to call them. You guys know what I mean. They're from St. Louis. How's that for my low-tech scoreboard? Not bad? Okay, wow. That's a good example of the Pro Chess League right there. You see all the results coming in on 3 of the boards, at least, virtually all around the same time. Lots of excitement in the last couple of minutes of the round. So, standout game from this round is definitely, in my mind, Andrew winning with Black against Zerabuk. Zerabuk very rarely loses, period. So, for us to get that win with Black, for Andrew to survive that onslaught on the king side, that's fantastic. Also, Mitkov drawing against Fedoseev is a good result, too. Because, again, they got draw odds. An 8-8 result is not good enough for us. We got to win the match on points. Okay, so the second round should be starting soon. Tang Train, that's right. Our GM-elect. And he just defended well in that game. I mean, let's just take a look at it for a second. I mean, I was skeptical. I was skeptical that White could get away with this. Because it feels like there's not enough resources in the position. But Andrew beautifully coordinated his pieces. Knight c4, I like that a lot. He's able to pivot back with the knight, take on e5. The rook suddenly has something to do on the 6th rank. He kept his calm. Bishop g7 was a real shocking looking move. If Andrew had, 15 seconds or something at this point, I could definitely see him getting confused and going down in this position, because that could happen to anyone. But he had enough time to figure it out. I was pretty surprised he didn't just play queen takes f7 here. I didn't see what was wrong with that at all. Just go for this position. This is a clear win for black. But yeah, he found this nice rook f6 idea as well. Check first here, and now rook f6, which kills all of Zerabuk's chances. Even though he's got the queen close to the king, there's no good checks to give. The knight is useless. And as I said, if this happens, it's just mate on the back rank. White doesn't have time to recoup their material. So Biffins donated 241 bits. I know the significance of that. Thanks, Biffins. Says, John, how important do you think a fresh haircut is when dealing with complex positions under time pressure in these Pro Chess League matches? Do you prefer a quick 30-minute cut or a longer barber session in your chess practice? Well, as they say, when you get a haircut, you have 48 hours of invincibility. 48 hours of invincibility. So however you want to spend it, that's up to you. I think I do play a little bit better, more confident when I get a haircut. So hopefully my commentary will be on point tonight. But as far as dealing with complex positions under time pressure, that's hard to say, because I've seen some very grizzled, unkempt players do really well under time pressure too. So I don't know if your haircut has a lot to do with that. But I would say a fresh haircut, maybe going to the gym a lot in the days leading up to a critical tournament, that does help a lot. Feel good about your body, your appearance, your chess will follow. Where is JB's Starbucks? I already had my Starbucks earlier today. Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to load up on coffee prior to this match. How you guys doing tonight? Again, I know it's been a while since I've streamed, but thank you guys for tuning in. So we're up 2.5, 1.5, just waiting on the next round to start. These matches typically go about 2.5 hours. Henry Yu asks, hey John, question, is traveling in Iceland particularly expensive? Just asking because, well, your small-sized accommodation in Iceland. Yeah, so I was staying in a dorm room-sized or prison cell-sized room in Iceland. Yeah, it's definitely expensive. I mean, if you're gonna stay in a hotel in Iceland, even like just a modest hotel, it's gonna cost you north of, $120 USD per night. And if you're there for 2 weeks, that's pretty expensive. So I found an Airbnb that was like around $50 or $55 per night, which made it a lot more affordable. And it was fine. It was not perfect, but as I said in one of my vlogs, I'm not a high maintenance person. If it, is clean, safe, relatively close to stuff that I can walk to, restaurants, playing site, I'm game. It's fine by me. So that's what I did. Most expensive part of Iceland is definitely the food and the drinks. Alcohol is super expensive. The food is expensive. I mean, there's some cheaper options, but generally you should expect to spend about 1.5 to 2 times the amount you would spend on food or drinks in the States. So maybe some people in European countries could be more used to it, but yeah, for sure it's more expensive than here. So waiting on the next games. Unfortunately for Daniel, he just kind of lost the thread, it looks like, against Akobian. Didn't really mind his opening strategy, but you notice he got low on time. Akobian seemed to hold the time edge over him. Looks like Daniel tried this f5 move that didn't work out so well. This pawn break looking for bishop takes h6. But that kind of backfired. It gave Akobian this e6 square. Yeah, I definitely like black in this position. This pawn looks pretty lonely. So I'm not surprised that this turned around in Akobian's favor. Yeah, he was just desperate at that point. Do I often eat out? Well, this tournament I did because I guess I technically had access to a kitchen, but it was much more convenient to eat out Yeah. And even the grocery store is like expensive. Like food is just expensive in general. Yeah, alcohol was at least two times what you'd expect to spend here. At least. I didn't drink it all during the tournament, but had a couple drinks after the tournament. Going out with some people. Did you see anything with the sticker Made in America when you were in Iceland? No. But I remember when I took my first trip to Iceland back in 2012, I thought it was hilarious that they had a flavor of Doritos called Cool American. That was the name of the Doritos flavor. Cool American. Which here would be Cool Ranch. So that cracked me up the first time I saw that. Yeah, Fiona and Simon probably had much better accommodations than I did in Iceland, being employed by the tournament. All right, here we go. Round 2. We got Mauricio versus Zarabuke. We have... Oh, that's the only game going right now, but the other ones will get loaded up. We got Fedosea versus Gurovic. And we have Akobian as white against Nikola Mitkov. And Andrew taking on Forrest Chen. Okay, so strategy this round, not any different than what I described. We're going to try to beat up on their board 4. Definitely like Andrew's chances with white in a London system against Chen. And if we can get 1.5 out of 3 on the other boards or more, fantastic. So Zarabuke playing an unusual line already against Mauricio. Bishop f5, that's kind of a suspicious line, I think. It's not terrible, but you definitely don't see that too often. He is influencing the e4 square. But this bishop can be harassed by like knight f3, knight h4. White could also try to prop up e4. You don't see this move exactly in this position really all that often. I mean, I wonder if just f3 is a good move here, looking for e4. Like, what's the deal there? That actually seems pretty good. Maybe get into a better version of a Samish King's Indian. Elastic Hold cheered 9 bits. Why don't you play the London? You know, I have a couple times, but not in a serious game. Elastic Hold. I played it against Nicolas Huschenbet a couple years ago in our death match. But yeah, it's a good question. Maybe I'll trot it out sometime. I play the Tory attack, which is pretty similar to the London in some respects. Okay, so we checked the opening there. Andrew knows this line well. So again, like Andrew's chances, Mitkov and Akobian are in a not a Nimzo Indian. I forgot what this line is called. It's kind of a hybrid variation. It looks like the Nimzo Indian with the pin on the knight, but black has already played d5, so it's a little less flexible version of a Nimzo Indian. Often transposes to a line of the Rubinstein Nimzo. This is pretty interesting. Akobian like aggressively advancing this pawn, gaining space on the queen side. But okay, Mitkov plays c5. Mitkov does not have the bishop pair, but he's better developed. Look for him to try to develop and attack these pawns. Maybe bring the knight to c6 and try to prove that a5 is a weakness. Wouldn't be surprised to see him do that as well. And Fedosea versus Daniel Gurovic. This is like Gurovic's structure he had in the last round, except colors reversed. Because now it's Fedosea who has the potentially weak pawn on e5. I will say Gurovic seems to know the Caro-Kann pretty well. He plays this a lot. He's been relying on this defense quite a bit in the past year. And he's playing fast. He's got, over 14 minutes. They're on move 12. This is probably all theory. Both players have been moving pretty fast. I don't foresee anything hugely wrong with Gurovic's position right now. He can't win e5 yet. And he has a couple things to think about, like the weakness of b7, also potentially the d6 square if these bishops get swapped off. Say something like this happens. This knight is primed to jump into d6. But those seem like fairly minor concerns. So he looks comfortable here. I'm just going to skip around a little bit in the opening. Okay. One thing I don't like, I don't know if anyone from chess.com is here, or ChessBay if you know, I don't like that if I'm on a move and I'm demonstrating a line, it doesn't update to the current position when I navigate away. If a move is made, it's not jumping to the current position. I think I got to click. I guess I have to kind of do it manually, but all right. So Mauricio actually played the move I was talking about, f3, looking for e4. Zerabute broke in the center. Probably has to, otherwise his play doesn't really make any sense. We got a trade here. And now I would bet that Mauricio plays the queen back to d2. That looks very weird, but when you do that, the idea is to play b3 and bishop b2 and have the queen a little bit more actively placed. Maybe he can even castle queenside later. So he's debating where to put the queen, but I think, yep, there he goes, queen d2. That's a move like to a less experienced player might just look bad and you might never consider it because, like, why would you want to block your bishop? But he's probably seen many games where, in fact, the bishop does get to that diagonal, that long diagonal. So good choice. I like White's position here. The bishop's going to have to move. Napoleon Bonaparte. I think that's Isaac Steinkamp from the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers, if I recognize that username. So good guy, writes some great articles. Thank you for hosting. All right, so nothing much happening here yet, but you can see the contours of the battle. This bishop's probably going to have to move, unless he plays queen e7. But yeah, okay, he moves the bishop. And I think Mauricio is just going to do this. Develop this knight, maybe get it to f4. I like White. Andrew. So Forrest Chen got his pawn back because he was temporarily down a pawn. But when you do that in this line, you have to deal with some inconvenience for a few moves. Yeah, like you note that Black's knight on a6 is out of the game. It's restricted by this pawn. Andrew's minor pieces are pretty active. Milos Kristich, thank you for hosting. Slight edge to Andrew. Black's pretty solid, but I would definitely take White here. Ecstatic Broccoli cheered 100. Thanks for streaming, John. Go Blizzard. Thanks, Ecstatic Broccoli. Good to see you in the chat. Gary Fang, what are you talking about? Mauricio and Yaroslav are on the same team? No. Mauricio's on our team, the Minnesota Blizzard. Zerabute is on the St. Louis Archbishops. Unless you're talking about something else. Did JB say if you would be streaming more in the near future, or are there more tournaments? So my schedule, I'm playing one tournament next week in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's another one of those GM Norm round robin tournaments, 9 rounds. And then I'm going to take a little break from tournament chess, I think, for maybe a couple months. Just got to get back to some normal life here in Minnesota, teaching, and yes, streaming. I will be streaming a lot more next month and into May as well. Penguin GM1 is now hosting my stream with 1 viewer. Thank you, Andrew. I think that's an auto host. I don't think you're doing that in the middle of the game because we'd probably be forfeited if you were. Well, maybe forfeited is harsh, but I'm pretty sure Andrew's focusing on his game right now. Okay, let's see if I can find an interesting game. I mean, they're all pretty much in the opening. Let's see what happened with Daniel's game. Bishop e4. So that's indicating maybe it's not so safe for White to take the pawn. They traded, and Fedoseev played queen a3. Okay. So Fedoseev's trying to use his space advantage here. Daniel still looks solid, though. Knight's under attack. So he's probably debating like knight d7. Maybe to try to put more pressure here. Thinking of taking on f3, taking on e5. Something along those lines. He's also probably looking at b6 to prop up the knight. Maybe even queen e7. I could see Fedoseev getting an initiative in this position, so I am curious how Daniel's going to handle this over the next few moves. Because for the moment, it's a little easier for White to bring his heavy pieces into the game, specifically the rooks. Rook d1, rook c1 are natural moves for White, especially rook d1, since that comes with a gain of time against the queen. Whereas for Daniel, it's going to take a little while to make these rooks relevant. So I would say if Daniel can negotiate the next few moves successfully, I like his chances. But if Fedoseev is able to get an initiative in the next few moves, that's dangerous for Black. Okay, so he takes on f3, and now what's going to be the idea? Because the knight is still under attack on c5. Is he going to go queen d4? Yeah, queen d4. Uh-huh. So the queen not only defends c5, but also attacks c4, also eyes e5. Okay. Nice active move. And assuming that white defends the knight with a move like rook c1, I think Daniel's going to take on e5 next move. I think that works out tactically, yeah. Let's say rook c1. Oh, no. It does not work out tactically. I was just thinking that the knight was good here because it defends b7, but actually the rook on c1 would combine nicely with the queen. Okay, so if rook c1 is played, black has to look elsewhere for play. I don't know. Knight d3, move like knight d3, trying to attack the rook, runs into rook d1 with the pin. Although there is queen takes f2, actually. Oh, yeah, queen takes f2 is a problem. Boom, check, here, and then you can take. So maybe that's his idea. Rook c1, knight d3, is that what he's going for? It's ambitious, but for the moment, I don't see anything wrong with it. Chessy Bus subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thanks, Chessy Bus. Appreciate the subscription. So what happened here? Did we get any more moves? Nope, still waiting on queen d4. Okay, let's skip over to some other games. So I was talking about how Kobian was aggressively pushing this pawn, and then Mitkov hit back with c5. He did put the knight on c6, which required Kobian to attend to this pawn. He pushed it to a6. And interestingly, Mitkov didn't take it. Maybe he didn't like something like this, and then eventually white's going to regain the pawn. Maybe not immediately, but looks like he will. Oh, no. Did he take it? No, he didn't. He played b6. Okay. So he just pushed past. And Nicola's probably hoping to win that pawn in the endgame when he doesn't have to mess up his structure to do so. And with a move like knight a5, which he played on the next move, he's stopping the rook on a1 from defending this. Also putting pressure on c4. Kobian took on d5. Makes sense. And now Mitkov is thinking. Recapturing on d5 with the pawn would be the automatic decision here. But maybe he's considering c4 first, this in-between move. Always got to look at in-between moves to try to block the bishop from defending. If he can get something like this, then, yeah, it looks inevitable that he's going to win this pawn. White would probably have to switch to playing more so in the center, looking for f3 and e4, which is a common plan in these structures, by the way, for white. Yeah, and Nicola did play c4, attacking the bishop. Okay. So look for a Kobian to switch gears here. Just give up the pawn on a6 and try to play in the center and on the king side. And especially watch out for f3 and e4. That pawn lever. I think that's almost a guarantee to happen because it's such a common plan. All right, let's look at Mauricio versus Yaro. Mauricio's got that very nice bishop here. He ended up putting a pawn on f4 too. Okay, so Zerabuk is attacking the queen. f4 was induced. Gotta like this pawn structure for white, right? Like the flying V formation. In conjunction with white's piece activity. But black too is relying on piece activity. This is kind of a battle of the minor pieces. Again, just eyeballing this, I still like white. White's pieces look more coherent to me. I mean, knight d3 or knight e4 has to be on the radar if you're Mauricio, but it seems to me like he's easily able to negotiate these type of moves. And I love that knight on d5. That's a constant thorn in black's side where it pressures c7. This bishop on h6, unimpressive. That's not a useful piece there at all. Chessy Bus, thank you for the 2,500 bits. Said great content as always. Thanks, Chessy Bus. Longtime viewer of not only my Twitch channel, but especially my YouTube channel too. And Charles M4 subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thanks, Charles. All right, guys. I like our chances here. Definitely. Going back to Andrew's game. Is he on the verge of just winning material? So he took on c6 here. Josel23 subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thanks, Josel. And I say, is Andrew on the verge of winning material because it looks like his knight is primed to take a7 unless it gets trapped. Kind of surprised that Forrest Chen isn't just taking with the pawn right now because what else is there to consider? Probably Andrew's going to jump into d6. Because if knight takes a7, rook a8, and yeah, that knight just looks trapped, right? It's not going to get out this way. You can't defend the knight. So I would bet that Andrew's planning this, which is a fork on the rooks. So let's say take, and that's a gorgeous dark square bishop. And a really bad bishop on d7. You can pivot this here. Yeah, this is great for white. So Forrest Chen did take with the pawn, and Andrew, I think, is going to hop in here. I don't think he'll think about it too much. Black is attacking the b4 pawn too, by the way. There he goes. Yeah. Take, and e5. So Forrest Chen's looking for activity, trying to open the light square bishop. So maybe trying to do this. Interestingly here, though, Andrew... No, he can't. I was just going to say, I thought for a second he could play bishop a6 to try to win the exchange, looking for this and then bishop b7. Typical pattern with the rooks. But after bishop a6, note that e5 move, it actually opened up bishop g4 as an idea. And then the queen is on d6, and Andrew's queen would be under attack. So that's why Andrew sidestep played queen d2. Prophylactic move. Now, though, Forrest Chen can still play bishop g4, right? Which he did. Just played that move. And Andrew's going to sack the exchange. Wow. Okay, that I did not expect when Andrew played knight d6. Andrew's just straight giving the exchange. He's going to try to rely on his bishop pair here. Okay, not going to lie, guys. That makes me a little nervous. I don't like that has happened. I don't know if that was a strictly necessary decision by Andrew. Can we just back this up? e5. Like, why not just play bishop c5 here, Andrew? Bishop c5, attack this pawn, stabilize the bishop. Bishop g4, you can just play f3. Maybe he didn't like something about that because Andrew reacted pretty fast. Dare I say queen d2 is just a blunder by him? I don't know. I mean, I think Andrew has compensation here. Some compensation. But not full compensation. After this move, queen c7, protecting the pawn, black is just threatening knight d7. And black would love to trade the knight for the dark square bishop. The dark square bishop is Andrew's best piece by a mile here. So, yeah, look for Forrest Chen to try to do that. He could play it right here, but probably he'll play like rook d8 just to get out of any pins, line up his rook with the queen. All right, so that's an alarming development in this one, guys. Notice the time situation, though. Andrew has more than double Forrest Chen's time right now, so that's good. John is disappointed, says Akiti. Yeah, that's right. I'm a little disappointed here in my former student. But he is a Grandmaster-elect. He's very resourceful. One of Andrew's best characteristics is his tenacity. He's just a super resilient player. So you got to beat him in every phase of the game to really beat him, and he rarely blunders. Anton Squared Me subscribed. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Okay, so yeah, we've got to keep an eye on this one for sure, because as I stressed, it's critical that we sweep Forrest Chen, I think, in this match. If not sweep, like maybe 3.5. If Forrest Chen scores an upset or scores 2 draws, that does not bode well for our chances to win this match. All right, so Gurevich, it's equal material. It's queen d4, take. All right, so Fedoseev never played his rook to the c file, at least not at that moment I was discussing. So they traded queens. Fedoseev is relying on his pawn majority here. He's hoping that this 2 versus 1, and the fact that Gurevich's a6 pawn is potentially weak, he's hoping that provides him an advantage, which very well might be the case. You know, I was commenting on Daniel's rooks a little bit earlier, and I still don't like his rooks. Definitely, I think those are a big problem for him right now. Like, just notice, if rook c8 is played, trying to contest the c-file, maybe pressure the knight, run smack dab into knight e7 with the fork. So Daniel has to kind of play gingerly, not in the Simon way, but, you know, just play carefully, try to avoid forks and obvious jumps with white's knight, and definitely not lose the a6 pawn. He's got to keep that a6 pawn. If he loses that and it's 2 versus nothing on the queen side, that's game over. So knight a5, probably Fedoseev has the idea of coming into c6 with the rook instead. Oro352 cheered 200 bits. Thank you, Oro. Let's look at Mauricio's game for a second. Some moves here being played. Yeah, Zerabuk definitely looking for piece activity. Mauricio's doing well on the clock, though. I have noticed this in Mauricio's matches in the past, let's say, month or so. He's been doing much better with his time management. Not that he was doing bad before, but I think he's like making an extra special effort in these games to manage his clock well. Akiti says, I like that playing gingerly is sort of the opposite of playing like Simon. Yeah, that's a good point. Simon definitely doesn't live up to that adjective. Oh, thank you, RoboBeer. Thank you. You know, I would have loved to do more coverage of these matches when I wasn't in the lineup, but I was just traveling so much, guys. I did not have the chance. Hop in the DeLorean. That's a great Back to the Future reference. Just subscribed. Thank you. Gary Fang says, Gurovic's position looks unpleasant. That's exactly how I lose most d-pawn openings with black when white's activity proves too much. Yeah, I'm worried about our chances on that game because it's kind of a passive position. So, this round, let's check on Mitkov's game. Yeah, still tough to say. Mitkov hasn't gathered the a6 pawn yet, although I'm not all that upset by that because that's a pawn that, it's going to be weak for the rest of the game. There's no way for white to break through on the queen side at all. So white's full chances in this sort of middle game hinge on whether he gets in e4. So, f6, which Mitkov played a couple moves ago, sent the knight back. That's good for us. Good for Mitkov's position because that blocks the f-pawn. I think black is better here. I would for sure take Mitkov's position. But, Akobian, he's feisty. Elastic Cold cheered 2 bits. Says, are you going to San Francisco if Minnesota wins this? Absolutely. I might go even if we don't win, but we are going to win, so that's a moot point. No, yeah, I really want to go. I haven't got any details from chess.com about, how many team members they're flying out, that sort of thing, but even as a spectator, I just want to go and kind of see the whole chess esports experience live in San Fran. Okay, checking back in on the Gurovic game. Some developments here. Yep, Fedoseev stuck that rook in on c6. Daniel's rook on a8 is so passive, it's just tied down. Although, interesting that Fedoseev just retreated back to c2 right there. I'm a little surprised by that. So he's kind of toying with Daniel in the sense that he's pivoting in and out of that square with his rook and his knight. So now I think he's looking for rook c6, knight c6 rather, hitting the rook. Maybe some knight e5 ideas. And Daniel has a majority here, but it's pretty tough to activate this majority because his king gets too loose. I think if one pair of rooks was off the board, like say you take away, these 2 rooks, it might be easier for him to push these pawns. But with both pairs of rooks on board, there's a lot more danger to black's king. It's going to be easier for white to launch an attack if black gets too frisky pushing the pawns. That said, though, I don't know if I agree with Fedoseev's last couple of moves. Like rook c2, okay, I could have seen that in conjunction with knight c6, but knight back to b3, really? Are you going to go to c5 now? Seems strange. Because if that knight leaves the a5 square, its potential influence over a5, like Daniel might sneak in a5 and try to trade the pawns. I think he's still worse here, Daniel, but maybe some optimism after this maneuver. Okay. Let's look at Andrew's game for a second because I was expressing a lot of concern about that. And yeah, even more concern now because Forrest Chen did manage to trade that knight for the dark square bishop. He did it via e4 instead of d7. Yeah, very smart. And, you know what's especially bad about that trade? Andrew wasn't even able to keep his pawn straightened. He had to allow the double isolating of the c-pawns. And this is just a very gross structure. Forrest Chen outright won one of the c-pawns. I mean, it's not good when you have to play a move like rook c1 to avoid trades here. I think Andrew's going down in this game, barring a miracle. He has almost no counterplay. This bishop's doing nothing on h3. Black's just preparing this move. Yeah, we're going to lose this game. That's not good at all. Andrew losing with white to their board 4. And I was saying how resourceful Andrew is. Definitely true, but this position is so bad, there's very little he can do. The damage has already been done. Yeah, he's just going to let Black win the c-pawn and maybe try to stir something up on the king side. I don't even see how he really does that, though. So, like, something along these lines will probably happen. Maybe he's going for queen f6, but he doesn't even have any pawns in the game to really harass him. Seems like Black can just insist on trades. I don't think any Hail Marys like bishop e6 are ever going to work. I mean, Black could even play something like that if he wanted to be super conservative. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll check back in on this one, but that's looking like a loss for us, guys. That already would give Forrest Chen a 1-1 score after 2 rounds. And we needed that to be much lower, if not 0 out of 4. Yeah, Spoiled Kitty, I think he is going for queen f6 and bishop e6. That's about the only idea, but that's very easy for Black to navigate. As I said, he doesn't even have to take the bishop. There's just not enough. I mean, if Andrew had a couple other things in the attack, maybe, but... All right, so we got to look to these other guys, try to pick up the slack here. We are holding a 1-point lead right now, as you can see from the score, but we got to get out front. So Mauricio, there's been some trades. Black still looks pretty active, but I was talking about that bishop on h6, and I was also saying earlier in this stream how when trades are made, oftentimes it highlights a bad piece. So now 2 pairs of minor pieces have been traded. Thank you, HD Song, for subscribing. 2 minor pieces have been traded, 2 sets. I'm hoping that later this bishop is just a liability, like in an endgame or something. I think Zerebuk would probably like to double up the rooks. Is there anything wrong with that? I mean, maybe there's something extreme like bishop e5 to try to cut the coordination between the rooks. Does that work? I think it does, actually. It's a strange motif, but if knight takes e5, queen takes e4, and this knight is pinned. There's no, ooh, there might be queen takes f2. That would be a nice shot. Ooh, queen takes f2, take, knight takes g4, take, rook takes e4. Ah, but there's g5 at the end. Ooh, that bishop. And that's a very rough calculation by me. But if that's something that Mauricio is calculating and Zerebuk is calculating, hey. Let's look through that one more time. Rook e8, bishop e5, cut the coordination. Knight takes, rook takes. And if Black doesn't play queen takes f2 here, I think they just lose because this is a threat. You can't move the knight away because this is hanging. So take f2, take this. Ah, is there c6 at the end? c6 at the end. Yep, as the chess kid just pointed out. c6. And if this knight moves away to safety, like knight c3, thinking, oh, there's 2 pieces under attack, then check here and take. And black wins now. Ooh, that's a lot to calculate, though. Yeah, and Zerebuk did play it. Rook e8. Ah, and Mauricio just played g5 right away. I didn't even realize that you could play g5 right away. Looks kind of scary when Black is fully coordinated like this, but that's a direct challenge. And Mauricio did it instantly. Zerebuk only has 57 seconds left. This is going to get sharp. What was knight b4? Knight b4 deflecting the knight? Wow, so he just wanted rook e3. That's the only thing he wanted with knight b4. Oh boy, okay. Check on d5, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Where to put the king? Probably f8. I don't think you want to step into the pin here, because that would make an eventual g takes h6 even worse for Black, but this position's razor sharp now. He does go to f8. Okay, so Mauricio could throw in queen f5 here if he just wanted to see what Black's up to, because queen f5, Black has to go back to g8. King e7, uncoordinating the rooks is not going to work. So he could do that, but mean, if you're white here, you almost feel obliged to try to play for a win. You're up a full piece. Yeah, now you're up 2 pieces. I love that confidence if this works out, which I don't see anything wrong with this, by the way. Mauricio, yeah, thought for a little bit. He said, all right, I'm going to call your bluff. Give me that bishop. So we're looking at forcing moves, of course. Check and also here. But if check on g3, rook g2, and if take, crucially, you can take with the queen. You don't have to expose your king very much. That just wins for white. If check on e1, trade, king g2, and white's king is perfectly safe. Wow. So, therefore, Yaro didn't even go for a check. He just played queen takes h6. So now he's just straight playing down 2 pieces. Oh, yeah, Mauricio's going to win this, guys. Yeah, I'm confident. He's got this. Great move right there. Classy move, queen g5, offering a trade. Trade when you're ahead, right? He also covers against rook g3. I mean, black can't play rook e1. That just trades another pair of rooks for a useless check. I think Yaro's going to resign here or lose on time. Yep, Yaro lost on time. We get on the board. That's huge. 3.5. Okay, so we need that because it's not looking good on the other boards. Let me just check back to Andrew's game. There's been some moves. Forrest Chen played king g7, not even to allow queen f6. This is just an absolutely disgusting position for Andrew. But he's still trying. Whoa. Okay, this looks like it got... I'm just going to go to the current position, guys. This looks like it got way more complicated than it should have from black's point of view. Forrest Chen only has 11 seconds. Andrew has 2.5 minutes. But you can see that black's king kind of got exposed. He was pushing all those pawns. Black is still, I think, completely winning here, I think. Yeah, he must be. I mean, maybe he can even just sack the exchange and run with the pawns, but there's almost no counterplay for Andrew. You guys say you're calling for Andrew to pull off a swindle here. Well, me too, yeah. Why did he not play... Yeah, queen f8. Why didn't he play queen f8 here? Queen f8 check at this moment because he can't block with the queen. He straight up loses the rook, and then Andrew actually wins. So what was Andrew's point here? Because this looks like an easy draw by Perpetual, right? Black can never block with the queen so long as the white queen is attacking the rook. I am very surprised. I don't know why Andrew did that or if he was gambling and trying for a win, but given the position he had, a draw would be a really good result. Would not have faulted him for taking that. Okay, we're still at this position. This would be an absolute miracle if Andrew saves this game. Yeah, Ghost of Bonko says, did Andrew miss the rook? He must have missed that the rook was under attack from the queen, or that queen g7 was impossible for black. Someone's saying mid-cup position is real interesting. Let's click over there. Wow, Nicola's up in exchange, but white has some dangerous pawns. Both players way down on time, especially Jacobian. This c pawn is coming. c4, c5, c6. Yeah. If you're black, you can't let these pawns get coordinated. So queen b7, he's trying to disrupt that. He was on the bishop if c4 was played. Don't like that pawn coming up there for white. That's not good. Nicola has these pawns blockaded, but this is really tough for black. Really, really tough. White can try for e4, e5 next. Yep, there goes that pawn. He's trying to get the big connect going. Connect 4. Yep. Well, he can try to blockade on the light squares, but I don't think it's going to work. I think this is Jacobian's game. This pawn is absolutely useless right now. Yeah, if this pawn hits c6, this is going to be game over. And that's what's going to happen. Next move, c6. Famous saying in chess, 2 pawns connected on the 6th rank are worth at least a rook. And I think you're about to see why. c7. Well, c7 would have won there for white. This also wins. He's up a bishop. Okay, we're going down here. Mauricio, we already know he won. We kind of missed this game. Yeah, Andrew, Daniel went down to Fedoseev. Let's switch back to Andrew's game. Andrew's going to lose this. He's just down a rook, throwing the kitchen sink. But yeah, this is way too much material. That's bad. That's rough, guys. So they get 2 points there, and it's about to be a 3-1 round in favor of St. Louis. Yeah, Andrew can resign here. There's absolutely nothing. There's not a stalemate trick in sight. Andrew is not happy with himself right now. Okay, he's going to try for a stalemate something. F4 to try to induce as many stalemates as possible, but he just resigned now. Oh, man. I mean, even saving a draw there would have been huge given how lost he was earlier. And I clicked back to this game, and I was just astounded that Andrew ended up getting so much counterplay with this queen b4, queen d4, queen b4 idea. But you got to see queen f8 here. Queen f8 is the only move, practically. Well, okay, in fairness, there's also some stuff with queen takes a7 to calculate, and probably he was trying to navigate, protect himself against queen e1, but that's just such a straightforward calculation that's very surprising that a player of Andrew's caliber would miss that. Queen f8, and it's, as far as I can tell, simply a perpetual, because again, if the queen ever blocks that rook, that clumsy rook on c5 always hangs. So king here is forced, and now you check, and you check in a manner that keeps an eye on the rook on c5, right? So again, preventing the queen. And this is just a straight draw. Check. Just a drawing pattern. That king is not going to escape. This bishop can never help out, but all you need is the queen. Dragon Mate says he probably didn't miss it, was trying to win. Yeah, you might be right. That's, I don't know. I definitely don't like that decision. Hindsight's always 20/20 in chess, but man, if you're white, you're pretty thrilled to get away with a draw. Ecstatic Broccoli, thank you for subscribing. Okay, but Mauricio, really good game against Yaro. Played quick, confident. He moves to 2-0. He was our one bright spot this round. It's unfortunate that Mitkov was not able to score in this game because it looked like he was doing well. Like, take this position right here. I know I missed a lot of this one, but amazing knight versus horrible bishop. I guess with this, Akobian is going for bishop a3. Overextended a-pawn that I was saying is going to drop off. f3, e4 not in sight for white. Black is clearly better at this point. Yeah, and Akobian sacked the exchange, I think mainly out of desperation. There's not really much else to do. If he loses this pawn, Black moves the rook out of the way and starts rolling with his A and B pawns. That's just tremendous for Black. Yeah, I mean, even after losing d5, like, this should probably be pretty good. I'm guessing he probably missed queen takes b5. Maybe Mitkov was thinking that the queen exchange was forced in this position because of the x-ray on the rook on a2. And he was thinking, oh, I've got this because this bishop is pinned. I'm up in exchange. And he would be correct about that. Black's just straight winning here. But that queen takes b5 move. And all of a sudden, hey, I'm on your rook on e8. You can't play queen takes a2. You actually just get mated. So queen takes b5, even though Akobian was on the respirator, that gave him life. And yeah, he just somehow finagled a win out of this. And we started tuning in like right around here, and I was saying it was bad once those pawns get connected. The computer might show some way that Black can resist here, but with low time for both sides, for sure, much easier to be white. Because all you really got to do is get that pawn to c5, and you're never, ever losing. So, yeah, Mitkov could have won this game. He needed just a little more accuracy, like right here. Maybe start with queen. Well, okay, the bishop is coming to c5, I guess. So I was thinking start with queen c4, but, you know, in the case of something like this, yeah, white has counterplay. Rook holds the pawn, bishop attacks a7. But it does feel like white should go down here. I mean, maybe you play... maybe king h8, take on b5, rook here, something like this. I do like that pin on the rook. Prepping rook b6. Should be winning, but still life for white. Let's just quickly see what happened with Daniel's game against Fedoseev. It was definitely feeling like Fedoseev was turning the screws, showing that Russian Grandmaster technique. Daniel tried to make something happen on the king side, but it sort of boiled down to activity, it looks like. I was explaining how it's dangerous for Daniel to undertake too much here, especially with his pawns on the king side when white is so active, both pairs of rooks are on board. And it looks like his king got a little exposed. Yeah. Rook back to c1. Now he's threatening rook f1. Maybe. I guess black could go to e5 then, but it's an annoying move. Suddenly black is looking a little unstable. Yeah, knight c4, attacking b6 and e5, rook g1. Again, like a computer could defend these positions successfully for black, perhaps. But it's like white's not risking very much here. Black was never able to generate any significant threats against white's position. And Fedoseev was just moving around, attacking weaknesses, being very annoying. Daniel lost a pawn, and then eventually the whole game. That's a very typical strong GM versus strong IM game. You know, this reminds me of my game versus Viadi Zoria from Super Saturday a month or two back. He was playing the white pieces in that game too, and I didn't think I was that much worse, but it was this nagging advantage for him where he wasn't risking anything, and eventually he just figured out a way to trick me and beat me. I mean, I've beaten lots of lower rated players that way too. Okay, next round starting. So I got to update the score. It's 4.5, 3.5. So we're trailing by, or no. Let's get that the right way around, guys. We are trailing by a point. So we got a lot of work to do in this second half. RoboBeer asked, why aren't I playing? We just decided that this was the best lineup for tonight. And also, since I've been in between tournaments, I think it makes sense to kind of rest me. I have been playing a lot of chess lately. And we did well with a similar lineup last week, so I definitely don't mind sitting out this match. Okay, so we got Mauricio versus Akobian. Mauricio is on 2-0, playing well. We have Fedoseev versus Andrew in a Ruy Lopez. Slower Ruy Lopez. We have Daniel against Forrest Chen. And we have Mitkov. Nikola has not moved yet. All right, he might have been away from his computer. He might have been AFK there for a second. So this is interesting. Mitkov is a real specialist in these kind of quirky lines in the Sicilian. I had to prepare for him from the black side because we played a game at the Minnesota GM Norm tournament back in August. And I remember looking at this line, this exact line that he's playing here. He knows this very well. It's a weird line. It goes take on d4, queen takes d4, knight c6, and then I think queen back to f2. And he's got a great deal of experience with this. So we're going to have to make up some ground somewhere. I hope that we can do it in this round and not have to rely on the last round. If we could pull even, then all we need in the last round is a win with 2.5 points. So hopefully we can win by a margin that St. Louis won in the last round, 3-1. That would be the best result. Obviously, Daniel has to win against Forrest Chen. No doubt about that. And we got to come up with 2 points elsewhere. I think anything less than that's going to be really tough. Because, again, St. Louis has draw odds. Thanks to everyone tuning in. John, how come your hair's not spiked? I'm just switching it up, keeping you guys on your toes. Yeah, there was a Minnesota GM Norm tournament, Nitro Sockside. It was back in August. Andrew played, I played, Sean Nagel played, and some other players too. No one made a GM Norm. Sean Nagel actually tied for first in that tournament. He did well. All right, so King's Indian here. Mauricio playing a5 and knight a6, so he's looking for the c5 square. I don't know a whole lot about the h3 line. Seems to me it's kind of a prophylactic line for white. It tends to discourage some of black's typical counterplay in the King's Indian with f5. I know that often black plays queen e8 in this system to break the pin and then moves the knight away, still tries to look for f5, and there you go, queen e8. Mauricio and I, we're on the same wavelength. A lot of these moves I've been saying, he ends up playing. Someone's asking about the draw odds. It was Biffins. So Biffins, if the match is tied 8-8, St. Louis wins. That's what draw odds means. So you're fighting uphill when you're fighting against draw odds. My hair color is boring. Wow. You guys are really bringing out all the knives. My natural hair color, too boring for you guys. Some of you guys. Sean Nagel is a super IM. It's kind of like a GM. Yeah, Sean's real tough. He's a good player. Great player. Yeah, Sean tied for first in that tournament and didn't make a norm. I think he was a point off, actually. He scored, I want to say, 5.5 out of 9, and that was enough to tie for first with, who was it? Georgiev. Vladimir Georgiev. Oh, thank you, Zion Canyon. I think I look fine, too. Thank you, Z Maltimer. Things you never expect to get when you're a pseudo celebrity, a chess celebrity. All these people commenting on your appearance. You got to get used to it. Henry Yu donated $5, replenishing the Starbucks fund. Thank you, Henry. That's good enough for 2 small iced Americanos priced at $2.41 from my local Starbucks. Which Plunder My Blunder knows all about. Or, sorry, Biffins. Biffins is the one who typically donates the $2.41. Your hair color is at least equal or better here. Thank you, Mr. Vladimir Kramnik. Okay, so trying to just take an assessment of these positions. Andrew knows these setups pretty well. I mean, I've never been fully convinced by the D3 Ruy Lopez's. I know they're all the rage at the top level, and there's a lot of subtleties, but it just doesn't really seem to me that White can possibly get an advantage playing that conservatively. Andrew chose a fighting setup, by the way. When he plays this G6, Bishop G7 stuff, I've usually seen that he's fighting for a win. Because in the main lines of the Ruy Lopez, he does not fianchetto his dark square bishop. So I think he's trying to be real ambitious here, as he should. He knows that he messed up last round and that he needs to come back big for the team here. So hopefully Andrew can. Daniel still in the opening. Another Karo-Kan against Forrest Chen. Nothing much going on here. Mitkov playing his specialty system. Yeah, so, wow. Zarabuk did not actually take the pawn on d4. That's pretty rare in the Sicilian when White plays d4 against the pawn on c5 and Black doesn't take it. You hardly ever see that. The setup that they now have has morphed into more of a French defense-like setup. In fact, there might even be kind of a direct transposition going on. But basically in this line, White hopes to use the d4 square to their advantage, and also the fact that Black's light square bishop is bad. I've played this type of setup with White in the past. He can castle on either side of the board. Okay, going back to Mauricio's game against Jacobian. So I mentioned that this line, in my opinion, is kind of a prophylactic line for White, this whole h3 King's Indian. And here you can see g4, that was played to discourage the f5 plan. So now Jacobian has more influence on f5. If, let's say, Mauricio plays f5 here, he could quickly land in hot water because take, see that rook poised on the g file, bishop h6. I don't think this is the type of thing you want to get into. Knight g5 is beckoning. Yeah, I don't think you want to get into this. I mean, maybe you can play bishop takes h6 here, but no, actually you can't. Take, we just extend the line a little further, bishop h5. That wins the queen. So it appears weird how White is playing, and clearly, White's not going to be castling kingside anymore. But if you shut down f5, you can kind of challenge Black to find counterplay. It's possible Black can end up in a passive position. So these positions are super complex. They're not my forte. I know in general what's going on. I think Black should still try for f5 here, but it has to be prepared properly. So maybe king h8 first. So that when f5 comes, take, there's no bishop h6 with tempo. Even that I'm not so sure about. I've seen some games where Black still lands in trouble really quickly by doing this, but that's the sort of thing. Oh, and Mauricio, hey, like I said before, Mauricio and I were on the same wavelength. I didn't even see that he played King H8, but he did play it, and Akobian played Queen D2 in reply. And here we have our current position. Sends the knight into B4. Okay, that's nice. It eyes the C2 square. A3 to kick the knight would run into knight B3, potentially. That I'm not even so sure about, because Queen D1. And after takes, take here. Well, yeah, I guess this is clearly good for black, because the rook would defend the knight. Okay, good. I like knight B4. That's a good move. I think to play the King's Indian successfully, you have to have a very good knowledge of pawn structures, because there are many setups that white can throw against you. And in some of these setups, you really have to manage your pawns properly, or else you get killed. Because in the King's Indian, black is giving away a lot of space in the center, and that always increases the risk that you're going to get run over by their pawns. So that's just one thing I've noticed about the King's Indian from the black side. Like, you really got to understand pawn play pretty well. And since Mauricio wrote a book on pawn play, literally, he is probably in a good position to play this line. Hey, Andy. Glad you could catch this live. Yeah, Caribou coffee is pretty good. Not going to lie. It's better coffee than Starbucks. Don't tell Starbucks I said that. But okay, Fedoseev and Andrew. Andrew's got a bit of a time edge. Fedoseev putting his bishop on a good diagonal. He's got that knight on A5. Don't really like Andrew's pawn structure here. Probably he's got to try to get this pawn up to C5 and connect his pawns. But still very early in this one. Okay. Daniel versus Forrest Chen. I think black should be okay here. This is a good knight on F5. Daniel can't kick it away with G4. But maybe he'll put his knight on F4 and try to harass the H5 pawn, so that black can't easily castle or something. But maybe black will just play G6 and stabilize things. Biffins donated, or cheered, 241 bits. Says, hey John, official Starbucks rep here. We heard you're up at the Starbucks head office and would like to not diss our coffee on stream. Thanks, Biffins. Yeah, I won't diss Starbucks, because Starbucks is very near and dear to my heart. Spent many an hour in Starbucks. Yep, still waiting on that sponsorship. Haven't got a call from any coffee companies yet. If you own a coffee company, hit me up. Let's talk. Did someone say Tim Hortons? I think they're actually building a Tim Hortons around here. I know that's huge in Canada. In the Pacific Northwest, I think. In the US, there's some Tim Hortons. But it hasn't really penetrated most of the US yet. What is the significance of 241? I said it earlier, but $2.41, that's the price for a tall iced Americano from Starbucks in my area. And yes, it's sad that I know that. So Biffins is just real adamant about making sure I have my coffee money, which I thank him for greatly. I am Rosen. Hi, Eric. How's it going? International Master Eric Rosen tuning in. Have you tried mushroom coffee? No. Is that like mushroom tea? Because I have tried mushroom tea before. It was pretty good. There's a Hortons off Lake Street in Minneapolis. Yeah, okay. Is that the one that they built, Robo Beer? Uptown? Okay, I'm just trying to decide which game to focus on. Again, not a whole lot of excitement. That's just what happens in these games. They start kind of slow most of the time, and then it's fast action in the last 5-10 minutes. Chess Bay 94 cheered 1,000 bits. 10 coffees on Chess Bay. Thank you, Chess Bay. Whoa. Actually, you cheered 2,410 bits. I should get that right. That was my messed up graphics thing. Well, thank you. So 1 bit is 1 cent, is what you're telling me. Is that right? Is that like exactly what it is, or roughly? Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Chess Bay. We got a queen trade here in Zarabyuk versus Mitkov. I don't like the fact that the queens got traded because with f5, Nikola is gunning for some sort of initiative. I mean, he's trying to destabilize this pawn, but oh, he's going all the way f6. All right, Nikola, yeah, I think this is going to be a decisive game, this one. I don't think there's going to be a draw in a game like this because f4, f5, f6 is quite aggressive. You're basically saying I'm okay with my e5 pawn being forever weak and my pawn structure being potentially overextended. He's going to try to mix it up on the king side. I don't know about this. I think if this were an individual game, not a team match, Mitkov would not have played this way. But credit to him. He knows that we're down. He's going to try to get us back in this thing. Hey, Sabu Takashi. Glad you made it on Twitch. Since Chessable has an e4 repertoire, will there be a d4 repertoire? Well, we have several d4 repertoires, JS Sil, including my free d4 repertoire. But as far as an extensive one with video of the caliber that Christoph just created, which is fantastic, got to get my Chessable plug-in, guys. Go check out my site because Christoph Selecki, aka Chess Explained, just published a fantastic repertoire. It is a paid repertoire, so you have to pay for the service to study it. But it's great if you're looking for a repertoire with E4. It has 17 hours of video, 700 annotated lines, about 50,000 words of instruction, like 46,000. It's really well done. So we have a new video sync feature too on the site, which enables you to watch the video, and also it tells you which lines the video is going over for you to study. So that's kind of cool. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But yeah, we'd love to have a full-length D4 repertoire like that. Maybe we can get Christoph to do that next. We'll see. Oh, Chess Explained has his own emote. I didn't know that. The head slap emote. That's great. Okay, so developments here. Yep. Mitkov, he's attacking. Strategically risky, though. Definitely. Let's switch around a little bit. More developments happening. Okay, so Mauricio did play that King H8 move. He sacked an exchange. Is that right? What happened here? Oh, no, there was a trade. Okay. Didn't sack the exchange. So Akobian actually gave up the dark square bishop for the knight on c5 and then played a3. Right, so he doesn't have to run it a knight b3 all the time. That's why he did that operation. Knight a6, castles, c6. Yeah. You know, I'm remembering a game that Mauricio played from the white side in this line, I believe, earlier in the season. Bishop a4, hitting the rook. Queen d8. Okay. This is complicated. I don't know who's better here. I was almost, before h5, I was going to say that I like black. But I don't know. King g8, that's played so that if h6, he can play bishop h8, because white was threatening to trap the bishop. Akobian has a really nice knight on d5, but black has the bishop pair. Don't count out that dark square bishop. Like, that bishop can be valuable in a lot of positions in the King's Indian. Ali Grok cheered 241. Says cheering only one coffee ahead, but it's the best one. Thank you, Ali Grok. That'll be put to good use. The Finns Coffee Fund. Thank you. And Biffins cheered 241. It's catching on. The 241 train. You guys are going to keep me well caffeinated for future streams. Nitro Sockseye says, aren't pass pawns pretty good? Usually they are. Usually they are. Unless you can blockade them and render them useless. I mean, the more I look at this position, the more I think Akobian is better here. But black's going to have his share of counterplay too, I think. He needs to get in b5 or somehow create some trouble on the queen side. Might be tougher than I'm letting on here, though. BL Swagger 07 has subscribed. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on board. I will have emotes, guys, eventually. And other associated perks of being a subscriber. So look for that in the coming month or two when I get back from all my tournaments and have time. Definitely open to suggestions if you guys have emote suggestions. For sure, we're going to get a coffee one. We're going to get a Team Scandy. All that good stuff. John is purifying himself with the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Yeah, right. Just like Prince. Okay, Andrew and Fedoseev. Fedoseev, another game where he's got this knight on c6, but is it a Trojan horse or simply a weak pony there? Because Andrew's trying to surround that piece. He's threatening rook takes c6 as it is. So bishop e6 was played because there was a threat on f7. So what's Fedoseev going to do with that? I mean, he could bring it out to a5, retreat this way. He might have to. I think Andrew's doing fine here. I don't know if he's better. I guess White could go to e5 too, couldn't he? Knight e5, put further pressure here, but take, pawn takes. This is kind of tough to assess. This is a big threat. Like rook f8, let's say. Trying for this next, maybe queen here. Knight f4, try to come in and further attack this. That's complicated. I can see why Fedoseev is thinking right here. He played knight e5, but the other knight to e5. Core 4 cheered 60 bits. I only have the bits for a quarter of an Americano. Well, that's still much appreciated. So thank you, Core 4. And thank you, Nitrous Oxide. Big supporter of the channel. Nitrous Oxide just subscribed. Wow, so Fedoseev keeps this knight on c6. Brings in the other knight. Yeah, and all of a sudden, I didn't realize when I first saw this that White had access to the e5 square. But f7 is a bigger problem than I initially realized. It's a lot of heat coming down on that square. So let's say now take and take. That's kind of rough. Rook f8. Feels like there should be a way for White to tactically exploit this. I mean, there's even moves like rook d7 now. Rook d7 if White doesn't want to ever have to think about losing that pawn. And this can't possibly be good for Black. Black's coordination looks highly suspect here. A guy like Fedoseev is going to find something in this position. Yeah, that's... Andrew might be in trouble here, unless he finds something really good, an antidote to knight e5. We'll check back on that. Okay, Daniel Gurovich's game versus Forrest Chen. Looks good, I think. Forrest needs to get coordinated. He needs to play his knight out here. I think like right now, otherwise he's just going to lose. Rook's coming into c7. So what does Daniel have in mind after knight c6? Rook b3, rook b3. There he goes, attacking b7. And now queen a6. There's queen c7 check, followed by rook takes b7. I think Daniel's going to win here. I'm not going to focus too much on this game because, as I said, the other games are pretty critical. Oops, Leon's subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thanks, man. Appreciate the subscription. Yeah, I'll check back on that Daniel Gurovich game later, but that's looking real good. I don't think Forrest Chen's going to survive that one. Mauricio looking for counterplay. So maybe he's trying to get his knight in here or trade this off, or also b5 could be an idea. Kobian getting lower on time. Yeah, Andrew's still thinking. That's a tough one. Yeah, Daniel just won. That was quick from the time that we switched away. But yeah, losing b7 was over. And he quickly swarmed on that pin knight on e7. Okay, so we're on the board for this round to make it 4.5, 4.5. On paper, that's good. But again, because of the draw odds, I think we really need to at least pull even here. Preferably even have, I mean, if we could win these remaining 3 games, that would obviously be incredible. Or go 2.5-half, that would be amazing. But 2-1, like if we can target 2-1 here, that would be awesome. I don't know though, given the way that Andrew's game is going. This game looks very complicated. 2-1 the remaining 3 games, I mean, since we already got that full point. Whoa, what is this? Rook takes h7? He instantly played rook g5. Why not rook takes f5? I guess then he might have problems with h7 anyways. So is Mitkov going to take here? But Zarabuk is saying, buddy, you've got problems with your rook on h7. Because if bishop takes here, he doesn't have to take back. He can take the rook instead and be up in exchange. That's clever. Rook g5. Defensive resource. Yeah, so Mitkov didn't even bother to take on h7. Take with the knight. But, oh no, knight takes d5 is not possible. I thought that move was possible for a second. I have kind of a bad feeling about this one. Because, again, what I was talking about originally, it feels like white has overextended. Pieces are getting traded, and weaknesses are becoming more apparent. Like f6. I think that's a pawn that's probably just going to fall. Although, admittedly, it's hard for black to round it up yet. Rook g6 runs into knight takes d5. But somehow Mitkov has to stir up some trouble with these remaining pieces. Maybe attack the d5 pawn. But how do you do that? Like, if you bring the rook over here, then you lose f6 right away. The rook's no longer defending it. This rook, kind of out of play. I mean, we didn't win the h7 pawn. So yeah, I don't know that rook is playing a big role. Let's go to Mauricio's game. There's a trade of the knights on d5. Bishop coming back to d7. All right, if Mauricio can be a hero again and win this game as black against a Kobian, that would be massive. That's exactly what we need as a team right now. He is up a lot of time. Kobian's under a minute now. The game is complicated. Mauricio's got to go all out here. I mean, even if he risks losing, I think we're almost reaching that point in the match. I don't want to call panic too soon, but I mean, if we check in on Andrew's game, yeah, Andrew, is he just losing his queen here? Bishop g7 was just played in a position with equal material. Fedoseev can just take Andrew's queen right now. He's probably looking at other juicier ways to play it, but no, this just looks completely lost. You can play knight takes f7 check too. There's a lot of activity after that knight fe5 move. White was swarming. Wandering Winder says Mauricio's position looks like the best of the remaining. Yes, I agree. I think Mauricio needs to win. We're going to lose this board. Mitkov, I was not optimistic about his chances here. I think this is the type of position where Yaro is going to be coordinating better than Mitkov. And maybe rounding up that weak pawn. Also, you can see the time differential. 3.5 minute difference. Mitkov under a minute. Yeah, Mauricio's got to win for us to have a chance here. Someone said, they pointed out, we did win a final round game with a score of 4-0. Yeah, that was a memorable match. But we can't count on a big result. Like, I know we're capable of that, but with the draw odds, given the caliber of the team we're playing, we can't take anything for granted here, and we need all the points we can get. Knight g6, okay, blocking the rook. I'm going to go back to another game real quick. Fedoseev still thinking. Plays f4, wow. He didn't even take Andrew's queen. He says f4, my position is so dominating, I'm just going to let your queen sit there. That's a... wow. And there's a lot of moves for black to think about. Andrew could try to escape with the queen, but note that queen c8 runs right into knight takes f7, which wins a pawn and the exchange. Should be easily winning for white. But dare I say, f4 is getting a little too fancy. I don't know. I mean, looks to me like he's still totally winning after that move. He probably just doesn't want the knight to hang. I think he was thinking if rook takes e6 take, like both knights are under attack. So that's probably, he's just trying to threaten to take on e6 on the next move. But it's kind of surprising that he didn't just go for some of the material right away. Okay, I'm going to look at this game for a second. Look at these pawns. Look at all these pawns on the 5th rank. Okay. I love this for us, though, even though... Okay. The knight is coming to e3. Look at that bishop. It's controlling h8 from a distance. The knight just went back to g3. I don't know why. Don't know what Akobian's thinking there, but Mauricio is going to mob him with these queenside pawns soon. If he can survive the kingside onslaught, I guess this is the plan for Akobian. Mauricio is just going for it. And so is Akobian, because he doesn't have anything else to do. Knight h5, knight f6, and he's going to try to invade with his rooks. That's about all you can do here as white. And it might be good. It might just be straight up good, but... So some stuff to think about for sure. I don't know, maybe c4 last move wasn't so good. Because the problem is, if you play king f7 here, like knight f6 is still going to be played. Take, and you're going to run into all these checks. You can't really allow that if you're black. So maybe Mauricio will play a move like bishop e8, or I was also thinking maybe rook a6, although rook a6 might, again, run into those checks soon. Yeah, it will. I mean, the worst thing here would be if Mauricio starts tanking himself and gets in bad time pressure, and then even if it's messy, like white's the one who's attacking here. So I hope he can find a solution and escape with his king, because we know Akobian's next move. I mean, I think there's little doubt. It's going to be knight f6. And black needs an antidote to the coming counterplay with the rooks on the h-file. Oh, thanks, Andy Boyd, Robin. Glad you like the Climbing the Rating Ladder series. Okay, gonna keep an eye on that, but very quickly, yeah, Andrew lost his queen, and he's not getting a knight for it, so he's busted. We know Daniel won. Mitkov, rook e1 coming? Rook d4. Okay, rook e1 can be met by rook f1. So black's got this very annoying pawn. But material is equal. Material is equal. And white's king is pretty close. It's tough to win that pawn, though. Pretty difficult. Definitely looks like Zerabuk is better here because white's rook is being rendered useless right now. Black does have to keep both his rooks on the d-file, but it's a little easier for Zerabuk to find moves, especially in this time pressure. Okay, but Nikola might save this. I just hope he doesn't get put in Zugzwang or something soon. Rook e3 here? Rook e3. He might lose some endgames. Take on f6, and if trade, king gets to e5 at the end, and he loses the c5 pawn. I think rook e3 was a blunder. What's the deal here? He's going to go to b4 with the king? King e5, king c3 forced, king d5, king b4. Ooh, okay, maybe. But black can always toggle between d5 and d4 with the king. And Mitkov is going to run out of moves. I think this is losing for white. Unless I'm missing something. Maybe first he'll play h5 or f5 here. But you see the essential problem is that Nikola's king is going to at all times be required to defend this pawn. And white is quickly going to run out of moves. Okay, f5 will probably be played here. Doesn't have to play f5. He can also just play king d4 if he wants. But now let's say g3. And then king d4. And if white has to start burning the a-pawn, what is there to do? I think he's going down. Yeah. Wandering Winder says white will run out of moves, and that's true. You know, if these pawns didn't exist, then there might be a stalemate trap with king a5 here. King takes c5 would be stalemate. But those pawns exist, so white would have to play g4, and that would be losing. Yeah, this is over. That's such a bummer. Going down here. Andrew lost. This game was a draw. Akobian saved the draw against Mauricio. Not good, guys. Not good. What happened here? Just checking. these last few moves. He did play bishop e8, but the knight landed on f6, as we knew it was going to. Yep, he tried to stabilize the position, trying to control h7. But boy, like, you give these GMs some inkling of an initiative. Look at that move, a4. That's a great move right there. Suddenly, these pawns, which were so strong, are fragile. Because if you take or push, as he did the game, like c4 is lost. And black's kind of tied up. I don't really know what's going on now. Mauricio's still up a pawn, but yeah, you can see his coordination. I think, yeah, he definitely botched that. That one hurts. So they got 2.5 out of 3 there at the end. So we have 5 points. They have 7. Not good. Well, so what's the scenario going into the final round, the final 4 games of this match? Well, we need a big round. We need at least 3.5 out of 4. Not even 3 will do it because they have draw odds. So even if we go 3-1, we still lose the match. I think this is a good time to eat my power bar, guys, because we're going to need a lot of power and strength for this final round. Let's do it for the Blizzard. We know that we can beat Forest Chen. So let's chalk up a point there. We just need to find 2.5 out of 3 on the other boards. It's possible. These games are going to be starting in a minute or two. Give us all the energy, guys. We need that Blizzard energy. Snow us in right now. Snow our opponents in. Snow us in too, because we're used to dealing with the cold. Like they say in the Batman movies, we were born into it. So if we bring the chill here in the final round, that can only favor the Blizzard. We've got to come up big. Twitch for fun cheered 100 bits. Says cool cat over and over again. I don't know what that means. But thank you, Twitch for fun. Bring the fire and ice. Fire emojis. The Blizzard have an emoji? Oh, from Andrew's channel. Oh, I didn't even know that. Those of you who are subscribed to Andrew's channel can use that one. Winter is coming, that's right. All out. Andy Boyd Robin, thank you for subscribing. If you've ever cheered for the Blizzard, even in the smallest respect, like you've liked one of my tweets that's referenced the Blizzard, or you voted for us in the preseason poll to get us to this point, to even have a chance, when many naysayers were saying we didn't belong in the league, and that we got in just because of a popularity contest, and that we were not able to compete in a league of this caliber. We need you to show up right now, double down on your support for the Blizzard, get us hyped, and send us to San Francisco against all odds. We can take down the St. Louis dynasty. We beat a St. Louis team last week. We can do it again. I'm confident. But it's going to take a lot of work. And our boys are going to have to show up huge here with your support. Starting any minute. So, what will be the matchups? My memory is not good enough to be able to quote the matchups to you guys. Actually, I have the pairings. Let me pull this up while we're waiting. One moment. See what we're up against. When you have a big task on your hands, you got to be fully honest with yourself. You can't You can't sugarcoat things. You just got to take them as they come and realize what you're up against. Can you guys see that? Yeah, here we go. Here are the pairings for the final round. We got Mauricio versus Fedoseev, Andrew against Jacobian, Gurevich against Zarabuk, and Mitkov versus Forrest. So like I said, we know Mitkov's going to take care of business, and we got to find 2.5 points on the other boards, or 3 points. Okay? So let me get rid of this. We got games in progress. Let's see what happens, guys. I'm almost done with this power bar. Okay. Slow opening here for white. Andrew, again going to the London system against Jacobian. Andrew shows up well in big moments. So he hasn't been playing great this match, but he can turn it around. He can do that on a dime. Mauricio's gambiting a pawn, playing a Catalan against Fedoseev. All right. Mauricio's been playing really well. Maybe a slight hiccup that last game because it looks like he left some chances on the table right at the end. But I've been impressed by how he's playing tonight. People are talking about the percentage chance that we can win this. Let's talk about the percentage chance in our hearts. Because for me, it's 100% right now. I don't know about you guys. Mauricio knows the theory here too. Queen b5. That's not a move that you play instantly unless you know what you're doing here. Okay. I like Andrew's position. Probably he's going to play e4. Daniel's doing completely fine. I probably would have put the queen on e7 rather than c7 if I were him. Just because when a rook lands on c1, as was just played, c takes d5 if the queen is on e7 is not as big of a deal because you're never being x-rayed down the file. But c7 is fine. He'll just have to take with the e-pawn if white captures on d5. Okay. LOL, it's reality. Just subscribe. Thank you, LOL. Sorry, guys. I never eat when I'm making videos or streaming, but we need all the help we can get. That power bar was essential. Send the energy to our players. Let's do this. This is Mitkov versus Forrest Chen. Okay, so some slower d-pawn openings. Every game is a d4-like structure, except for the Zarabuk game. We started with knight f3, but... yeah, I know a lot of streamers eat when they stream. I just am not used to it. I always feel like I've got something stuck in my teeth, or it's just gross for you guys. Queen a1. This is a typical maneuver for white. Put the rook on c2, queen to a1. Ready maneuver, they call that. Named after Richard Reddy. So Daniel advances in the center. There's a quick trade. He's got these nice pawns, but Zarabuk is going to find a way, or try to find a way, to fight back, probably with e4, if I had to guess. That's usually the way you do it here. Doesn't play it yet, though. But yeah, usually you're going for e4 and trying to force this d-pawn to a decision so you can get your knight into c4. For example, let's say he did this on the last move, and Daniel just closed it up like that. Then you get the knight into c4, pressure here and here. Okay, Daniel standing firm. Lots of chess to be played in that one. Andrew did prop up the d5 pawn with this. Jacobian reacted by looking for b4 ideas. This is going to be a messy position, which is exactly what we want right now. The worst thing that you could do for white, well, let's just say all our players right now, is play draw as chess. We need to unbalance. We need to seek our chances. We need to sacrifice if necessary. We need to keep tension in positions, avoid simplifications to endings. All of that. It's all on the table right now. This is the point in the match where if it were a poker game, there's one card to be overturned. The river card is coming. We've basically bet all of our chips except a few. Everyone knows that our last chips are going in, and it's all up to that river card, what it's going to unveil. And you might think in a situation like this, match-wise, that you should play as aggressively as possible. And you should play aggressive, but in my experience, you can't go crazy. Okay, there's been some famous instances of world championship matches. I read Garry Kasparov's books, for instance, on his matches with Anatoly Karpov. And there's one match in particular where Kasparov had to win in the final game. And he was able to do it, and he was describing his match strategy, his game strategy. And he said, you know what, I'm going to play as long a game as possible, keep the tension. I'm, contrary to popular opinion, like not going to try to outright attack him. And he played a very quiet setup as white. He maneuvered forever. I believe he won in an endgame with an extra pawn, like queen, bishop, and 4 pawns against queen, knight, and 3 pawns, where despite being only 1 pawn down and maybe having some drawing chances, Karpov had some structural problems too. So I think if you can play that way in a decisive game, like that's pretty good. Our guys might not have the luxury of that tonight, but just know that if it's a slower maneuvering game, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a draw. Dejan 10 Drew 22 subscribe with Twitch Prime. Thanks, Dejan. Okay, let's click away to some other games. This one's interesting. I'm curious how Andrew's going to react to b5, b4. Mauricio, I like what Mauricio's doing, I got to say. So he is down a pawn, but I know from experience in this type of setup, you got a lot of long-term pressure. See Black's bishop on c8. That's struggling to get in the game right now. This is almost Benko Gambit-like compensation in the form of these 2 files. I'm sure Fedoseev knows what he's doing here, but I like what Mauricio is doing too. He's going to have long-lasting strategic pressure for a single pawn and lots of pieces on the board. Queen c3. So I think putting the pawn on e3 next or in the foreseeable future is going to stabilize things nicely. Queen c3 is good because it also stops e5. Black might like to get that freeing e5 advance in, which maybe he could have considered last move, by the way. I don't know how that works out, but if I were Black, I would definitely consider that. Maybe after some trades, a bunch of trades here, White can play e4, and then this pawn might fall, although I'm not sure about that because this knight is also loose down here. So hindering e5 is nice for Mauricio in this position. Maybe he can play e3, knight e4, knight c5, plop that knight on a very good square. Then he'll have great pieces, long-lasting pressure against Fedoseev's structure. Potzer to Master says, I'm not saying it's a sign or anything, but it snowed here today, so probably a sign. Yep, I think so. I think so too. Fischer famously played the quiet English to win an important game against Spassky. Yep, there's lots of examples like that. Also, kind of along those lines, if you need a draw in a game, let's say you're playing a tournament and you go into the final round and you're up a half point on the field, your next closest rival, and you're playing that rival, so a draw is good for you, it's going to win the tournament. It's well known that you should not play for a draw outright. You should play your normal game. You should not play deliberately for a draw because that puts you in a bad frame of mind. You might make decisions that you otherwise wouldn't making if you were playing free. So there's a lot of psychological considerations to take into account when you have a very important single game or you're getting to the end of a tournament match and you need a certain result. e5 was played anyways by Fedoseev, even though it loses a pawn for now. So I think that's a clear sign that he just wants to get that light square bishop out, maybe angling for f5. So let's say Mauricio takes it with, which way would we want to take it? Probably with the pawn. And he does take with the pawn. Again, Mauricio and I, like, maybe I got to train with him or something. He's a GM, I'm an IM. Every time I suggest a move, he plays it. But there's something he does better than I do because he has a higher title. Maybe I got to hit him up for some lessons. But yeah, I said take with the pawn because I think you want to keep this knight on c6 and not let black put a pawn on c6 eventually. So Fedoseev gave back the pawn, but he's got the bishop out now. But maybe Mauricio can crowd him in the center. He can still try to get this knight to c5. For the moment, though, he's got to address bishop takes a2. Shredder412 says, John, did you get a haircut? You look a bit younger. Oh, thank you, Shredder. That's the nicest thing anyone said about my hair tonight. I appreciate that. I did get a haircut. I got a haircut today. It was more of a trim, really, because they didn't cut much. But shout out to my barber, Scott. He's been cutting my hair since, honestly, I was probably like 7 years old, maybe. And I've gone back to him time and time again. Even when I haven't been living in Minnesota. Like, I've been home for breaks. I'm like, got to get in a cut with my barber, Scott. Scott might even be watching right now. He says he checks out my Twitch channel from time to time. Okay, so we'll leave this game. Andrew played Queen E2. I like that move. I like that a lot. That's actually a very clever way to deal with the whole b4 and taking on d5. So just to illustrate that, Queen E2, it is blocking the bishop, but it prepares queenside castling. And if Akobian tried to go for the pawn, problem is, like in this line, you often run into d6, and the queen shows its value on the e-file, pinning the bishop. Did Scott comment? Black Scott says, you're welcome, John, anytime. I might have to message my barber, Scott, and see if that's actually Scott the barber. But, Scott, if that's you, thank you so much for your valuable service to my hair over the years and my appearance. Lucy Moody says, I bet John's had the same haircut since he was 7'2". That's actually pretty truthful. I usually get pretty much the same cut. I did get frosted tips one time when I was in like 6th or 7th grade, when that was all the rage. I got frosted tips like I was in NSYNC or something. But other than that, I pretty much got the same cut. Not that that's a cut, that's like a coloring. There might be some photographic evidence of that. I wouldn't be surprised if my mom still has a picture of me with frosted tips. It's a dark point in my life, guys. I also, of course, had a bowl cut when I was in like 4th grade, probably. That I definitely have a picture of in my yearbook. The bowl cut was in the early 90s. Like circa, let's say like 94, 95. That bowl cut was the hot style, man. The frosted tips and the bowl cut. Not together, obviously, but... Frost the tips until GM. Yeah, right. That's definitely not going to happen. Let's check on Daniel's game against Zarabuke. Okay, so some developments here for sure. How did Zarabuke fight back against those pawns I was talking about in the center? He maneuvered knight f1, knight e3. He actually didn't play e4. He played for d4 instead. Interesting. But I like how Daniel has been handling this. I think Daniel doing fine in this position. I mean, white has the strong knight on e5 that we can't take yet. We could take it with the bishop. But you don't want to take it with a knight here, because then you get forked like this. And the ready battery, queen on a1, bishop on b2, supporting everything that's going on here. Dubious Chess donated 5 bits. This is Kappa Kappa Kappa. Thank you. And Plunder My Blunder resubscribed. Says, am I the first anniversary? No, Plunder My Blunder. There's been a couple, but you're definitely up there. You're one of the very few resubscribers, so that's cool to see. Kappa Kappa Kappa. What's that from? That's from a movie. They're talking about a fraternity or sorority. If someone can quote that, I'd be impressed. I don't remember what movie that's from. Okay, so Daniel is, he's holding tight here. I think Zarabuke is almost certainly going to play f4 in the near future to try to get this bishop involved. Try to open up the bishop against this and maybe threaten f5 too. So Daniel's probably just thinking like how he could get counterplay against that. I mean, actually, that's a pretty big deal, right? Let's just say that black plays some neutral move and f4 is played. Yeah, actually, that creates some problems for him. This is an issue. The introduction of that bishop coming to life is huge for white. So maybe that's why Daniel's thinking for so long. Okay, he moves the knight. Lambda, Lambda, Lambda is Revenge of the Nerds. Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I have seen Revenge of the Nerds. Is Reddy's rifle and Reddy's battery the same thing? I haven't heard of Reddy's rifle, but it's probably the same thing, yeah. It's just like Alakine's gun, except a rifle. Black Scott, the alleged barber, cheered 300 towards your next haircut. Wow. Yeah, got it. I'm gonna ask Scott after this stream here if that was in fact him. But thank you, Black Scott, whoever you are, for the bits. Okay, so Daniel is taking some measures to fortify d5. I think that's why he played knight b6. So that after f4, f5 is played, like, this knight is helping out in the defense. And also he has the d7 square to drop back to. Darko Milicic, that's a name we haven't heard for a while, donated $1. What starter jacket do you have? So Darko Milicic, those of you who follow the NBA will know who he is. But he played, I think, one of the waning seasons of his career in Minnesota. Former #1 pick. Famously picked ahead of, who was it he was picked ahead of in that draft? But yeah, famously like one of the biggest busts in the NBA. So thank you, Darko. As far as starter jackets, I had several. Because my dad is a former school teacher, used to teach 6th grade, and he would often buy starter jackets and give them away as prizes for kids, like end of the year prizes. So he had a whole ton of starter jackets, and I got my best pick of those. I think I had a North Carolina Tar Heels starter jacket I was pretty fond of. All right, so I'm going to go to a different game here because some developments going on. Nicola, okay, equal material here against Forrest Chen. I hope this doesn't devolve into an opposite color bishop position if the knights are traded, but we're a long ways from that. So that game's going fine. Andrew did castle queenside, and this game is getting real sharp because he's gambiting the a2 pawn. Dubious Chess, thank you for the 10 bits. He's gambiting the a pawn, and he's going to play exclusively for an initiative here. Yeah, I like it because Black's pieces are bottled up. Again, I don't think he can really entertain this sort of thing unless he's going to go to d8, but that looks pretty crazy. So despite being down a pawn, Andrew is going to challenge Black to coordinate. The only thing is, well, I don't know. Maybe it is easy for Andrew to attack because probably his next move will be knight e5. Could consider lots of other moves too, but knight e5 is kind of interesting to me because that might prop up bishop c4 with the development and a gain of time on the queen. Or maybe even knight c4, knight e5 to c4, which cuts off the queen's retreat to a5 and also threatens knight b6. All right. Yep, we know what has to be done here. I think this is a must-win game with white for Andrew. Okay, Daniel, is he going down a pawn here? Knight takes d5, removes the defender of the knight on e4. Can he throw in an in-between move? Knight takes g3, though. That's what I'm wondering. Typical operation. Before taking this knight, take on g3, try to win your pawn back. It is hitting the rook with tempo. Let's say pawn takes. Bishop takes. Thing is, yeah, it looks clean. You don't run into knight d7. I mean, you might be a little worried about this shot, but rook takes e2 is always on the queen. And I think, yeah, this should work out fine for Black. Someone offered a draw somewhere. That's what that sound means. Where was the draw offered? Looks like Mauricio offered a draw. I'm a little surprised by that given the match situation. Yeah, I think I'm reading that right. I think Fedoseev offered... Or no, sorry. Mauricio offered a draw and Fedoseev just declined. Kind of weird. I mean, all right, if we look at the material here, Mauricio is down a pawn, but it seems like he's going to win this pawn back. Maybe Fedoseev just thinks there's no risk here, which there probably isn't. White's structure is much better, and it seems likely that Mauricio is going to win this pawn back. But Fedoseev might find a way to, at the very least, get into an equal rook endgame, maybe even press in an endgame. That's a bummer, though, that a draw was already offered by Mauricio. Oh, a murder castle offered a draw? Because it says here that Mauricio offered a draw, but maybe that's a different game or something. I don't know. Oh yeah, you're right. The draw was offered on this game, but it says that the other game was also offered a draw. I don't know why it says that. What's going on here? Is this bad for Mitkov? Oh no, there's mating motifs here. Rook d6. Wow. Okay, so the mating motif is if takes here. How well do you guys know your tactics? Pause your video. Knight g5. King can't go back to g8 or to the 6th rank. You got to take the knight. And then queen h5 is checkmate. Ooh, so that means Mitkov has to play queen g4 or h3 here. But this looks dangerous. Forrest Chen is really active here. Black's king is suspiciously placed. He played queen g4. And now instantly by Forrest Chen, a good move, I think. King g2, looking for h3 ideas. Oh, this is clearly a must-win game. Like, no doubt about it. So Mitkov has to work some magic here. This is suddenly not looking so good. I'm fearful his queen is just going to get trapped. I mean, how do you actually save it here? The threat is h3, and then queen h5 is the only safe square for the queen, and then simply g4. So I think he might have to get frisky here with f5. f5 so he can take on e4 if this happens. But that even loses to the same... No, it doesn't. The knight is pinned. I was thinking knight g5, queen h5 could be played, but the knight is pinned here. That's critical. So is f5 the only move in this position? What else can black do? Because these rooks are unable to do hardly anything. I guess you could play rook e6. You could play rook e6 to make way for the queen to come back. Yeah, Fate just said rook e6. So did Nicholas. Yeah, you could play f6 too. I guess there's several moves black could try here. Although f6, I don't know about queen c4. I don't think you want to allow that. But somehow it looks bad. It somehow looks like something bad is going to happen here. Never play f6, that's right. The Ben Feingold saying. f6, queen c4 looks basically over. Rook c8 is played. Oh, but is knight g5 winning the exchange? Knight g5. Again, the knight g5 move. That's brutal. Are there any tricks here? That just looks like an exchange. The rooks are undefended, but what can you do here? Oh, man. We got Jeffrey Zhang in the chess.com chat saying that's GG. Jeffrey Zhang is pretty strong, and it doesn't take a chess grandmaster here to see that black is losing. Wow. c5, does h4 just win the queen now? No, queen c1. It's queen c1. But not good, guys. This is a straight exchange with a much better pawn structure for white, much better position. Not good. If we lose this game, the match is instantly over. Because, again, we need at least 3.5. We need 3.5 or 4 to win this match. Oof, brutal. Queen g4 creeping in closer. Queen f5 check, g6, queen f6 is on the horizon. This bishop is just out of the game entirely. I think this is going to be called really soon. We're not going to throw in the white towel yet, though. But we're on our last lives here. Last life single. Okay, so Gurevich is actually up a pawn right now, but his king safety looks highly suspect, and he's down a lot of time. Note, he can't really take here because it allows queen g7 check, and I think he's just going to lose if that happens. So he's in a bit of a quandary about what to do with his king. Position's pretty sharp, though. Let's just take a look at Andrew's game. These guys are still in the opening, it seems like. Andrew sacrificed another pawn, but he's going for the attack. Okay, it's going to get wild. Mauricio He's attacking these pawns. I think the most likely result here is still a draw. I think probably some sort of rook endgame is going to happen. But like I said, if this game's over, we just lose the match instantly. The other games don't even matter. So we might not even achieve liftoff here in this round. And this looks pretty over because queen f6, you can't even stop without some real radical measure like f5. I mean, look at this bishop. This is probably +6 or +7 right now for white. I don't think I'm even exaggerating. It might even be force mate. These engines are so good. It might be showing like mate in 8 or something at this point. Yeah, f5. Otherwise, queen f6 is coming, but just take the pawn if you're white. No need to really think here. What was missed? Rook h6 with the idea of queen g8 from a couple moves back. Something was missed here. I'm not sure exactly what move you guys were talking about. Which move, Napoleon? Yeah, I mean, this is clearly over. Boom, boom. Checkmate. That hurts me, guys. I feel the chill to my soul right now. Match over. The St. Louis Archbishops hit the magic number, 8 points. To send the Blizzard packing. We will not be going to San Francisco. Our season ends now in disappointment in the second round of the playoffs. Press F to pay respects, please. And you hate to have it happen that way, too, where we didn't, as I said, achieve liftoff. I'm just laughing because I said, okay, the Fs are going through. All right. I thought some of you were getting timed out for that. But yeah, pour one out for the Blizzard tonight, guys. It's a sad day in Minneapolis. Our whole state will be grieving. Just like when the Vikings lost. Also in the second round of the playoffs. Right before the big dance, the Super Bowl. History just continues to repeat itself. But to put a positive spin on this, let's click over to another game. Let's look at Andrew's game. He's attacking a Kobian. It's probably our best chance for a victory in this round. To put a positive spin on things, though, we've got a young squad. Our expectations were not high this season. We barely made it in. So I don't want to say this is a rebuilding year because that's what all our teams are in Minnesota. But we will be back. We will be, I think, back very strong next year. I believe we're in automatically next season because we made the playoffs. We still had a very good season. I mean, we were right out of the gate. We started, 3-0? We're the only team to start 3-0. There was a lot of hype around our team, defying expectations. There was a memorable match where Sean Nagel went 4-0 on board four. The first board 4 to ever do that. Won all his games in a match against the Buenos Aires Krakens. We signed some free agents that helped us out a lot this season. Daniel Gurovic, Thomas Beardston from the Netherlands, Nikola Mitkov, even though he let us down in this last game, but in Nikola's defense, we were facing a very uphill battle anyways. So there's a lot to be optimistic for. Not going to lie, I'm very disappointed right now, as I'm sure all members of our team are. But I'm proud of our squad, and the Blizzard will be back next year. We will be back. Andrew will be a GM officially by this time next year. With some luck, maybe I can too. We're just getting started. So no San Fran for the team. I might still go, though. I got to talk to Danny and see if it makes sense at all for me to go in official capacity. And if not, if I'm not commentating or something, I might just go as a spectator and just hang out. Do any of you guys have plans to go to San Fran? By the way, this looks like it's backfired on Andrew quite significantly as I've been talking here. His king is on h3. Akobian has all his pawns remaining. Andrew is down 4 pawns. Andrew's down 4 pawns. This might be a reverse sweep in this round here. I got to check on the other 2 games, but hey, if you're going to lose and you know you needed a big result, it doesn't really matter if you lose by, it's like the opposite of the famous Fast and the Furious quote, right? Vin Diesel says, the first Fast and the Furious movie. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. When you're losing, it doesn't matter if you lose by an inch or a mile. 3.5 half or 0-4 result. Winning's winning, losing's losing. We're not playing for pink slips or anything in this match either. This is all for fun and glory. And actually, some money. I mean, had we advanced in this match, we would have had a nice payday as a team, making it into the Final Four. I think we still win a little bit of money, though, based on our performance getting this far in the playoffs. That's right, Arbor Vitae. Living your life a quarter mile at a time. Yeah, Akobian has this. This is downhill for Andrew. There's no counterplay. He did win 1 pawn back, but he's still down 3 pawns. Knight's coming into a3, c2's collapsing. I mean, he can resign here. There's really not much to do. Black doesn't even have to hurry this move. He can safeguard this pawn first if he wants. Yeah, he doesn't even have to take on c2 with the knight. Okay, let's I missed this one. Zarabuke won this game. Yep. Looks like Daniel's king was a big problem. It was marching all over the board. Yeah, got flushed out of the pocket. King was scrambling. The defensive line was closing in. And that was that. Mauricio is actually probably going to win. Okay. Mauricio saving our honor. I think he's going to win. He's up in exchange. And this c-pawn can be stopped by the king. Got to be honest, I was expecting to click over this game and explain to you guys how we were losing 0-4. But, yeah, it looks like he'll probably win this one. I think he'll find a way. Still tricky, though. Knight c4 is the threat. Yeah, Andrew just lost. That's over. So let me update this score. What did they just get there? 2 more points? No. 3 more. 3 more points. Did I not put that up there? Wait, how many points did they get there? And what was the score before this? I cannot math right now, guys. I'm so taken aback by this result. It's 10, right? Yeah, we're down 5 points with 1 game to play. No. 10-5? Yeah, 10-5 is right. Okay. Yeah, because 1 more game. Let's click to that game. Mauricio's going to simplify into a pawn endgame. But is it winning? A4 now? That pawn's going to be promoted. But Mauricio promotes with check. King c2. Good move. Very good move. Actually, probably wouldn't have mattered, but because he's promoting a check either way. But Mauricio, I think, is going to save our honor here. He's just going to get in closer with his queen. Okay. So we end on a positive note with Mauricio winning that game against St. Louis's strongest player, Vladimir Fedoseev. Final match score, however, 10-6. St. Louis Archbishops vanquished the Blizzard. They survived the Blizzard. We went for it in the last round. You know, it backfired. It backfired quickly. But the result, it was looking unlikely. We weren't losing hope, though, collectively. The first couple rounds went very well. First round went perfect, like according to plan. Mauricio easily beat their board four, Forrest Chen. We won 2.5, 1.5 in that round. They came back in the next round. I think they beat us 3-1. And the wheels did start falling off from there. So, yeah, I think our strategy was good in the type of lineup we fielded. We fielded a balanced lineup. But if their board four scored, as I said right at the beginning, if he scored anything more than, like maybe scoring a half point, like anything more than half, 3.5, that was going to be bad news for us. And Forrest Chen on board four for them scored 2 points, 2 out of 2. He beat Andrew and he beat Mitkov. And that's too much. We're giving away too many points there. They've got 3 world-class GMs on their top 3 boards. All of those guys are well over 2,600. Fedoseyev's over 2,700. Zarabuk and Akobian they're too good. We're not gonna score enough points there, especially with them having draw odds to survive that match. So I think that's what it boiled down to. Even with, let's say, even if Forrest Chen scored 0 out of 4 though, and we give 2 points back to the Blizzard, take 2 points away from the Bishops, it would still be 8-8, and they still would have won the match with draw odds. So we needed to make up some of the slack somewhere. But you can see how big of a match necessity that was for us to score 3.5 or 4 against their board 4. I think that was just critical. If we don't do that, we don't even have a chance. So it's as if we had Kramnik on our team, says Pat. If we had Kramnik, yeah, I might be saying even more optimistic things at this point. It was a hallucination. Yeah, poor Vladdy. I mean, I say poor, but he's been bringing on himself, obviously. But I love Kramnik. He's my favorite modern player. I've learned so much from his games. But it seems like he's just kind of let the arrogance get the best of him this tournament. He's always been like kind of a cram-splainer. But he's been letting the cram-splaining run amok in the candidates here. Which I'm sure is compounded by the fact that he's lost some games that he shouldn't have lost. Like against Grishuk the other day, he could have made an easy draw and he didn't. He pressed on in a position where he definitely shouldn't have. But I think he'll come to his senses and realize he's a bit out of line. My thoughts on the candidates. Well, I'm definitely rooting for Fabiano at this point. I like Fabiano a lot personally. I like Wesley So as well. He lives here in the state. But it seems like Wesley's been, I don't know. I don't want to say backsliding a little bit because he's tremendously strong, but he just hasn't had the same results that he had a year and a half ago where he was playing out of his mind. It seems like the other players have kind of figured out a bit more how to play against him, and maybe sometimes Wesley is a bit too theoretical for his own good because I think he struggles to play for wins against these top guys. So, yeah, would have liked to see Wesley doing better at this point, but certainly I would be very happy to see Fabiano play a match with Carlsen. I think Fabiano is reaching his top gear right now and his peak performance in this tournament. Hopefully that continues, although he did mess up that game against Ding Liren the other day. Also, Mamedyarov. I really like Mamedyarov's style. I know some people think Mamedyarov would have no chance against Carlsen in a match, which is probably true. I mean, he wouldn't have no chance, but I think Carlsen would handle him pretty easily, given that Mamedyarov traditionally has had problems with his opening repertoire. And if you're going to cede an advantage or at least equality to Carlsen in the opening, I mean, Carlsen is clearly the best player in the world. He's going to outplay you in every other respect. So the one thing I like about Caruana compared to Carlsen is that Caruana is so well prepared. I think Fabiano could really punish Magnus in some openings and has a very good chance of catching him in certain lines if they were to play a match. So of the two, I would love to see a match with either Caruana or Mamedyarov taking on Carlsen, but I definitely like Fabi's chances better in a match. So closely following the candidates. Follow the Chess Bros coverage, by the way, here on Twitch. They've been doing a fantastic job. I've been exclusively watching their coverage. I think I tuned in a couple times to Peter Svidler and Jan Gustafsson, Chess24, but I've really been impressed with the Chess Bros coverage. Eric and Aman, Yasser, they had on for the early rounds. So definitely go support them. Watch their stream. Fabi has style? Yeah, he has style. He's a very good calculator, plays extremely well with concrete chess. I mean, he's good at all phases of the game, just like all these top players. Very well prepared. I think he's probably up there with Anish Giri as like one of the best prepared players in the world, if not those guys like top 2. Yep, Dragon Mates, also Carlsen, of course, is very well prepared in his World Championship matches, but the opening has never been Magnus's emphasis. Magnus is very good at stylistically, like kind of pegging his opponents and figuring out what lines are going to be uncomfortable for them. But Magnus has never been like a truly theoretical opening player. Not like an Anish Giri, who seems to know all the nuances of theory, even in pretty random and rare lines. Yeah, Fabi's a pretty universal player, but he's a very good calculator. That always impresses me about him. And he's good when the play becomes concrete. He's very good. I think he adjusts really well. He grasps the position quite quickly. All right, guys, I think I'm going to log off now. This was a fun stream. We didn't get the result that we were hoping for tonight. We're not going to go to San Francisco as a team. As I said, I might still be there. That's the second week of April 7th to 8th. And there's 4 teams that are playing. I believe it's I know the Armenia Eagles and obviously the St. Louis Archbishops are there. I don't know, because there's one more match which I think is ongoing right now. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what 4 teams it is, but that'll obviously be coming out. If anyone knows, feel free to type in the chat. But thank you guys so much for watching the coverage tonight, and especially for following us this season, the Minnesota Blizzard. You know, we wouldn't be in the league if you guys hadn't answered my YouTube call and voted us in and showed your support very early on when we reached the top 3 in the qualifiers, or we got to the fan favorite qualifying poll. So you guys just showed tremendous support there to even get us in the league in the first place. And I hope we did you guys proud by making it to the second round of the playoffs and having a pretty good season. So we'll be back next year. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Biffins. Thanks, John Gad. Yep, cheers, Robo Beer. Thanks, BL Swagger. Cash Your Dreams, thank you. Henry Yu. Armin Local Hero, good to see you. Yep, thanks, Jay Miller. Thanks to everyone who subscribed and donated tonight. Really appreciate it. A lot of strong support in the chat. I'm going to be streaming a little bit this week. I do have another tournament coming up in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm playing that March 27th through April 1st. I'll be leaving for that tournament next Tuesday. But I'll stream a few more times before I leave. So stay tuned, guys. And I'll post this on YouTube, too, if you tuned in but missed some of the coverage and want to watch it on there. All right, guys. Have a good one. Good night or good day, wherever you are in the world. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye, guys. Don't make fun of my hair too much in the YouTube comments.